Good evening, everyone. It is Thursday, September 17th. This is the Town of Hingham Historic Districts Commission meeting. Thank you all for coming. A little after 6:30, we're going to get things started. First order of business for this evening is to discuss the new construction and additions in Hingham's Historic Districts document that Andrea forwarded to everyone. You should all have a copy of it tonight, and hopefully you've had a chance to review it and take a look at it. But I thought this was a terrific piece of work that really should enable the applicants to better understand what's involved when new construction or putting an addition onto a historic home is contemplated. There's a lot here. There's a lot of detail. I think it really lays it out well for the homeowner that wants to do some work on their house. And I think it'll also be a very good tool for us in terms of looking towards it when we have commentary and we're reviewing applications. So maybe we can talk about this document. If anybody's got any edits, changes to it, concerns that they'd like to put forward, we can take those now. And then maybe we can take a vote to see if this is something that we want to put forth in terms of new guidelines for us.
I have not seen it.
Okay.
Was it an email?
It was, I sent it to you via email.
I had, I think it was well-written. There's a lot of
John might need to
information
share
in
with
here.
you.
I had one comment regarding one word, one particular word used twice, and which is contemporary. And I understand, so for instance, on page 3, under H, the design, about halfway through, it says, "New buildings should exhibit a contemporary design that is in keeping with the other buildings on the streetscape." And I think, I understand the context of contemporary in this situation, but I wonder if others will also understand the context of that, or if some people may misconstrue that as a modern design, a contemporary design. I think the idea is that it's sort of contemporary construction methods, it's new construction, it's sort of that type of thing, but the actual word contemporary could be, in my mind, construed or misinterpreted. So a suggestion may be, instead of contemporary, the word is maybe complementary, and that shows up twice. So on page 3, as well as page 6, under the same category.
Okay. Page 6.
I just think that's sort of a broad term that.
I'm sorry, Mike, you said, let me go back to the word contemporary. So I'll take it out of H if everybody else agrees. And where was the other use, do you recall?
Page 6,
Okay.
under number 3,
Oh, design, all right.
design.
Yes, I see
About
it.
halfway down.
What are you suggesting as a substitute word?
Either it could,
That's there twice.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
either it could come out, or the word complementary in its place, or if there's another word for contemporary, which I can't think of, doesn't imply potentially modern design, which is not really
Which is
the
what that
intent.
does.
It could be
Yes, it could be.
misunderstood, so that's the only comments I had. Otherwise, I think it's very well done. There's a lot of good information in there.
Page 2, John and Lois, H, no, page 3, H, under H, we're changing the word contemporary to complementary. And on page 6, the word contemporary is used twice under number 3, and we're changing that to complementary. Thank you, Mike.
Sort of a historically sympathetic design.
That's another. All right, that's good.
I think what we're really trying to say is if you've got a 19th century
original structure. We don't want the addition to look like it's a 19th century structure being added, in the
Yes.
21st century. So however you convey that, I think is important.
Any reaction to John's historically sympathetic?
I think you just leave.
New buildings should exhibit a design that is in keeping with,
Yeah, not have to put anything.
So
in
take
place.
everything out.
you don't need an adjective. That's,
Yeah, just strike the word contemporary.
Okay,
you do that also.
That
I
works.
think that makes the most sense.
okay, out it goes. That makes it easy.
Andrea, the only change that I have in addition to what we talked about earlier was, the other main guideline piece is called Guidelines for Work in the Historic
Yes,
Districts.
correct.
And I think this is such a substantial piece that this also should be called Guidelines for New Construction and Additions
Okay,
in Hingham Historic Districts. So, and I think it's enough here just to be a standalone piece. On the website, we've got that, and then maybe below it, just to have, this piece too on its own.
I've got comments with regard to windows, particularly on page 4,
okay,
where we basically talk about true divided lights and simulated divided lights. And we say windows should have divided lights. I think what we really should substitute there is usually have divided lights.
okay.
I think what we're really talking about is double-hung windows, not casements, et cetera. And I think we've got to clarify that that's what we're really addressing is double-hung windows.
Okay.
I think we need to add a diagram that basically shows the different terms for a double-hung window, i.e. the sash, the mullions, the glazing or lights, the putty, that sort of thing. So it's very clear what we're addressing. Because I think sometimes these terms get bandied about when we're not quite sure what they mean. So I think that the diagram that's on page 43 of the existing guidelines needs to be incorporated in this.
Okay, good.
Because that clearly shows like the upper sash, the lower sash, the lights, et cetera, et cetera. And you certainly can have true divided lights and simulated divided lights that have the same thing in terms of like the sash can be wood on both, that sort of thing. Just because it's a simulated divided light doesn't mean that it doesn't have wood components.
Okay.
So I think that's why it's important to make sure I would basically take this and put a paragraph in where we say the use of true divided light windows is recommended. And then do another paragraph where we say wood simulated divided light windows. Do another paragraph for that. So we basically can separate the two from one another and then clarify within each if they're, what the differences really are.
Okay. Is that something we could refer to, is that complete enough in our window guidelines?
It may be. That's why I say something about referring to page 43.
Okay, all right, I'll look at it. Now, are you suggesting then take out, windows should have divided lights? What do
Yes.
you want that to say?
Windows usually have divided lights. The reason why I say that is because in some cases, you've got a 2/1. That doesn't have divided lights, except in the upper sash.
Except in the upper sash.
And you could also have a 1/1, depending
True.
upon the period. So there are no divided lights in that window at all.
Okay, do you want me to say double hung windows?
Yes, because I can't think of, except with one case in about 2 meetings ago where we had casement windows. But we don't usually have casement windows. But that doesn't mean
All right,
we
so
wouldn't in
windows
the future.
are usually double hung.
With divided lights.
Okay. Got it. Anything else?
Mine was minor. Page 3B,
Yes.
should that read site of new construction?
3B. We could do that.
I mean, all the others seem to flow. Scale refers to, massing refers to, the height of new construction, proportion refers to. This says site new
Yeah,
construction.
in this case, I think I used it as a verb,
Got it.
site new construction
Got
to
it.
be compatible, but I can change that if you'd prefer.
No, because I think what you've described, I think the intent of what you said
Exactly.
seems to make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that meaning. And then page 7, just under 6, it says technical services branch. I think what you want to say there is the technical services branch. That ended up at the end of the sentence.
Oh, yeah, where is it?
Page 7.
Page 7. Okay. And so, oh, yes, you're right. B, thank you. I see.
Andrea, did you draft this? This is a lot of work.
Well.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you. But you know what? I mean, this came from a lot of different places, so.
Chuck, did you get that paragraph that, about enforcement that you wanted to put in? Did she get that?
It didn't get in.
I didn't
She
get it.
didn't have time
in.
to do it.
I will do it, but perhaps you can explain what it is, Chuck, that we're adding? The enforcement. And Hans, did you write it into yours, or do you have it? Because I know
I don't
you,
happen to have it either.
well, I'll send it out to everybody.
I think everyone should have a chance to see it before it gets put in.
Okay. Because you told me where it should go.
Yeah, it was, yeah, I wanted to put it at the end of, the part on additions. Let me just, I think I've got it in the email here that.
Is that me?
Okay, Chuck said if during the process of construction, the applicant encounters existing materials that, in the judgment of the applicant, need to be repaired, removed, or replaced, it is incumbent upon the applicant to notify the commission or its designated representative in lieu of taking action unilaterally. Failure to do so could result in fines being imposed according to the rules and regulations. So, and I had suggested putting that in the document. On page 10, Andrea, at the end of Roman numeral 4.
Okay.
At the end of,
Yeah, because the sentence above is removal of architecturally significant features and alterations to historic facades are inappropriate. And then if you want to start you could start a new paragraph there if you want, or you can just add that on there. I think that would be, because it's about demolishing structures in historic districts, so.
Having not poured into this on page 9, features that may be important to defining the overall historic character of a building, including, I don't see trim. Again, I haven't poured into this, but siding,
Okay.
windows, entrances, porches, roof, architectural features, I guess trim details, treatments, and gables and overhangs?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I guess that covers it close enough then. A lot of times we mention downsizing the trim, or keeping it appropriate to the size and scale of the new work.
Okay. So what would you like to add, John? What would you like to see there?
I would say appropriate trim details,
Or appropriately sized?
please.
Okay.
I think that's clever.
where is this going, please?
Page 9,
Yeah.
Under architectural features,
middle of the page,
it
Chuck.
says trim details.
Okay, at the end of that, or as a separate bullet point?
I would put it in architectural features, because we have siding, windows, entrances, porches, roof, architectural features, and masonry. But I was feeling more that trim should be a bullet point in itself, but it's mentioned as trim details, treatment in gables, overhangs.
All right, I will change that to appropriately sized trim details.
Seems to be a reoccurring conversation among the board and applicants.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to draw everybody's attention to the drawings. You can see on page 5 that I'm going to be working, I started working a little bit more on the drawings so that people could understand. The top part is the roof. The middle portion is the body of the house, and then the foundation is that bottom strip. And if anybody can think of a better way to portray that, I'm open. Chuck, you had asked me to do something with
I asked you
the,
to shade in the roof,
okay,
mainly so it doesn't appear like this is a flat facade.
right, okay. Got it. And,
Chuck, do you think we need sketches for any of these, or you think the blocks is,
On 5, the bottom picture.
you think we can go?
Number
Page 5.
You mean the
okay,
proportions of new
Yes.
construction?
Is this pulled from a,
no, I did it.
okay, can we make the front door bigger, please?
Oh, yes, okay. Draw it for me, and then I'll do that.
I mean, we can also put some
So it
sketches in
just so it
here,
probably is even with the top of the window.
if somebody
Okay,
would
thank
like,
you.
if somebody would like to do it, but I'm not,
I think that's
I'm not the,
perfect, Andrea.
Okay,
one of the architects, or,
I'm sorry.
we were just talking.
As required, I will.
We were talking about possibly sketching some of this. I know how much work you did working with
Oh, that's all right.
Microsoft Word,
I
but,
take no offense.
I mean, that's something we could incorporate at any time.
Yes.
But I think the body of this is what we need to consider tonight. So, if everybody's comfortable with the guidelines, these new guidelines, as Andrea's put together and we've gone over, we can make a motion at this point and get these approved.
I'll tell you what I think is maybe really important, and that is to put a date on this. So that, because if
Yes.
we want to reference something, we can say such and such a date, or if we want to say, put this into effect by such and such, we've got something to reference it to as far as a date.
I will put on there a voted date or accepted or approved, some.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Good.
Question is, we're going to adopt these now. Is there opportunity to modify them as time goes on, or once we've adopted them and
Oh, yeah. I thought, yeah, we
Oh,
can
yeah.
modify these.
It seems to me you could always add revised such and such a date.
I'm just wondering, are they tight enough that we don't want to have so many pages with the word revision in it, or can we revise them before it goes out to the public, so we don't have many copies floating around that have been revised?
I think if we need to revise certain wording or a section in it, let's say we want to take another look at windows down the road, that we can update that draft and the guidelines and put some new guidelines out there for windows.
It'll probably take me at least a week to finish all of this stuff. So if you have something,
I'm going to leave this for Lois, and if I could grab a copy before we...
I will do
someone has a
that,
spare
yeah.
copy. Or I can have Carrie print it out.
okay, all right.
But I think, I just in terms of the, what we're seeing out there in new additions and work being done, I think the sooner we get this out, the better. So people could have something they can refer to, and then we can also have something to refer to, too. So, but we're not meeting again for another month, so.
Hans, when do you envision that this would go into effect?
Within a week's time.
All right.
Once Andrea puts it out there.
right with everybody?
Yep, would somebody like to make a motion at this point? Voting members tonight would be Lois, myself, Mike, Chuck, and Marty. Can you be a voting member on this? Okay, great.
Happy to.
Okay.
Because I think, of course, Virginia is missing. She's delivering a white paper at some conference, so she wasn't able to come. So does anybody want to make a motion?
I will move that these proposed construction additions to the historic districts be adopted.
Second for me. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, everyone. And if you think of something as the week goes on, just send it to me or call me, and I will make the change. I appreciate you looking through everything so carefully.
No, thanks, that was a lot of work, Andrew, appreciate it. Okay. All right, first application tonight is a continuation from last month. We have 203 North Street in. I'm Al Kearney, architect, and thanks for having us out a couple weeks ago to see your home.
Yeah, thank you for coming by.
Sorry, my husband couldn't be here tonight, he's working.
It's okay,
He would be here.
it's all right.
Handing out the flowers.
Thank you.
I do listen. Try to anyway.
You do a pretty good job.
No, that's the dormer, right?
Yep. One extra if you need that.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I'll keep one.
Thank you again for coming by Saturday. I thought that was important that we put the ridge up, and it felt right to me, and I don't know how you guys felt about it, but speaking to that now, and you'll see, I responded to all of your comments from last meeting, and I guess the mass moved right and forward, so it moved right almost 4 feet, or just over 4 feet, actually. And one of the comments, I think, from one of the board members was maybe addressing relocating the switchback stair. So when I did that, it allowed the room to be differently configured. And so that brought the mass of the addition closer to the main house by 3 feet. 3 feet, 2.5 feet. And then the same gesture allowed the addition to move to the right, almost just over 4 feet. So it worked out pretty well architecturally in plan and elevation, but also it's hiding the massing behind the main facade even more, so it's less prominent from the street, which I think is good. I also reduced the size of the front gable on the addition, and I brought it off of the ridge by 1 foot and reduced its width, so it just feels a little bit more thoughtfully in scale with the main house. And speaking to the main house, we added, I think it was Chuck that mentioned that the shutters may have been on the house, and Deborah said, in fact, they were up to about 2 months ago, they just brought it off, and so they went missing because of that reason, so we're going to replace those, and that'll...
What brings that focus to the front of the building?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have the shutters there.
Yeah, no question.
And these little tiny details do make a difference
Yes, they...
in making it look like the older part of the house.
You've added a new window also, which I think helps the scale.
Yes.
In it,
We talked about that on Saturday.
Right.
Yeah. And here.
Where's the new window?
that's the new window right there.
On the backside, I didn't go into this yet.
So I'll throw in these things.
Alan, didn't you say that was going to be, that's a pantry?
It is a pantry, it's adjacent.
were able
you
to,
see-
like, silk
yeah,
that in?
Yeah, it's adjacent to, I misspoke.
So, Artie, that's the
It's
new
used as sort of
window,
a-
right? That's the new window right there.
Closet almost. Yep. But helps that facade a lot.
Yes.
And I also moved the screen porch back behind the house so that the sight line through the side porch continues directly to the backyard, so it's not abbreviated by the screen porch. Yeah, and it won't show as much, exactly. And also move the balcony, which is on the second floor,
Right.
off to the back, so it privatizes that whole component. So all in all, I appreciate your feedback, and I was able to, I think, incorporate as much of it as I could into this latest design, and I like the direction it's going.
And there's the window.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
So my question, Al, because looking at pictures, drawings more than the architects, they can read the other designs. We talked about the gable being down,
Yeah.
and that's what you've done, but it might not show in this.
This gable?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You and I talked about that.
it's subtle, but it is,
But yeah.
it's narrower and lower.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you have the drawing or the rendering from last,
I do, I got a side by side.
is it way subtle? Because,
Yeah, that was, the John comparison.
I don't have the one from last time, but A3
that's the one.
shows it from the front. No-
Yeah, and the schematic is the true.
Right.
The rendering is,
It's the true one.
right. Thank you.
I love your drawing. I rely on it.
Thank you.
I've got a question on sort of this roof line
Yep.
and that roof line.
Yep,
Is the pitch broken somewhere? Are they two
Yeah.
different pitches?
two different pitches. And you can maybe see that on the site plan, it's just it's a small-scale roof plan, but it speaks to that valley, that what happened.
So this, the peak of the dormer aligns with the peak of the main portion in order to make that roof split, is that correct? So this peak would have to align with that peak in order to break this roof and that roof?
No, that secondary shed roof will break down off of the ridge line.
Oh, I see what you're doing. So then, wait a minute.
Yeah, the true elevation isn't showed because it's blocked by the massive.
Yeah.
What's
and
going on here?
This, these are, it's almost like this needs to come up here in order for these two roof lines to break, or if there's a line here.
Like that. That's the main gate
Oh.
of the street. That ties into the EU. This is the shed portion.
Yeah.
And it ties back into this
I see.
continuation
Yep.
of the main roof slope, with the pitch of the main roof.
Yep, okay,
So that's
got it.
shed.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were doing a shed. For some reason, I thought this was all the same roof, and it wasn't lining up, but that makes sense. I get it now. Thank you.
Pitch of the existing main house roof is opposed to A3 left side elevation, the pitch of the addition roof. Are they similar? Sorry, John, what was that? A3, existing main house roof pitch.
It's a 12.
And the addition roof pitch?
It's a 12.
is there a way to maintain very similar inside space and change that pitch to lessen the ridge height? Or is it a tight ceiling? I see the ceiling.
Everything's tight, but
Okay. Is it to gain more ceiling height in the first and second floor of the addition than there is in the existing main house? Is that why we have a higher ridge elevation?
Yeah, that's-
Matching pitches, right?
yep.
And the buildings look similar in width from the gable end?
Exactly.
So the only way to do that is to raise the ceiling height, which is going to give you more space. Although in the front elevation of A3, it doesn't look like there's that much more space between, the distance between the first and second story windows. Looks similar to scale and drawing.
Bless you.
Well, yeah, it's just trying to find the balance.
Right. Just seeing if there's a way, without compromising interior space, which is difficult, to lower that ridge so it's at the same height of the existing structure.
Yeah, that,
Or in keeping with a little bit lower, but I don't know if
I
that's
was-
possible.
I almost always try to go at least the same and lower, but the grade isn't helping us here, and then the dimensional number forced the proportions to get, it just forced the ridge up. And that's why I thought that story pole exercise was helpful, because it really didn't feel to me that it was that much higher than the main ridge because of the perspective and because of its location beyond the main ridge. So from the street vantage point, it didn't feel overwhelming to me.
I think that several people remarked on that at the,
Right, because it's going, it's
Yeah,
fading in the
you're
distance, I
right.
understand, but there's no asphalt on the story pole. So when you see that roof line in mass, just concerned that it's height above the main house. Do we know what the ridge height above the main house will be higher than? Is it a foot?
It's like 2 feet, I think, or maybe it's 1.9 or something. But the rendering, I took the photograph and I just overlaid that ridge line that was there, so the rendering with respect to that ridge height is accurate.
Right. Well, going back to the 730 plans as opposed to the 917 plans, the whole mass of the structure has appeared to get smaller regardless of all the things that you've tweaked.
The ridge height stayed the same.
Right, but
it
the
moved.
mass of it.
Yes.
The dormer, the porch, the height of the railings out back, getting lowered into the roof line, everything appears that you did, has appeared to make it look smaller.
I have a question. On A3 of the original, you had a chimney.
Yeah, we moved the fireplace and it's a gas-fired fireplace.
Okay,
It
and
went to
so,
a corner.
so it's not visible from this?
There's no, sorry, yeah, there's no chimney. There's no-
Okay, got it, thank you.
So, just in my view, with the story pole up there, I know we couldn't see the whole roof up there, but when you looked at, from the street level, because you were looking up at that first gable of the main house, it still seems very prominent, even with this, even though this is a foot 9 higher. It still seemed very prominent to me. In this case, just because it's just kind of going, it just slowly goes up the hill, right, towards the back.
Yeah, agreed.
And we were almost sitting, I don't know, that driveway is, well, we were kind of looking up from the street level. There's probably, 5 or 6 foot of grade between the street and the,
4 or 5, yeah, something.
so,
But it's way back there, though.
yeah. And then you're looking at, your existing house is 30, 40 feet long before the addition starts, so.
Right, there's enough visual interest
Yeah.
in the main house, so your eye doesn't just immediately go right to that ridge line.
That was kind of my takeaways from the story poll up there.
Did you study the version where you've got everything, the footprint is as it is, but you drop that peak to be in the same plane as this one? And I know it's not the same pitch as the front of the house, but did you study that, and what did it look like?
It's a subtle change, but again, it wasn't the 12 pitch, so it didn't match in that sense, and that, in my opinion, is stronger than the perceived height of the ridge from the street. So the integrity of the shape and sort of overruled the height. Architecturally, that was my default on that one.
Al, when I count clapboards here and use it as a scale, 4 inches for clapboard generally, and I compare it to the old ridge line, the new ridge line, it's only coming out to about a 10-inch differential to me.
The ridge didn't change.
I mean, I'm talking about on the new portion compared to the old in terms of a ridge height change. It seems to be only 10 inches roughly.
Oh, okay, I'm overstating. I'm erroring on the side of conservative here, so. I guess what I'm trying to say is the ridge, because it's backed off from the main house and it's, again, further away, and the story pole, again, was helpful to see just exactly where that would be. It didn't feel, if it felt bad to me, I would have changed it, I would have altered it, I would have done something with the slope, but it didn't feel that way to me, so I went with it because it does keep the integrity of the shape and the mass and the form of that end gable in play, and that's important, I think. You know, it's an oblique angle, but it's still, you know, an important facade. And so, again, it is higher, and it's difficult to sort of, you know, approve maybe or appreciate, but it, again, it's not significantly overwhelming the main ridge line. So whether it's 10 inches or 1.9 or something closer to 2 feet, it's something higher than the ridge. But again, in my opinion, it's not something significantly affecting the integrity of the main structure.
If it were lowered to match the ridge height of the main house, would it adversely affect what's going on inside, or is it minimal? It seems like it'd be up high enough where it wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah, the room isn't that big. When you look at the plan, it really isn't. It's not a, you know, a ballroom by any stretch of the imagination. We've got a bath, a closet, and a bedroom. And if we lower it, then it just compromises all of everything comes down just that much more to make it feel even, you know, more restricted. And plus, again, with the dimensional number that we need to use to make this happen, it just makes it that much more difficult to marry these two together with the same ridge lines.
The grade really does work to the advantage. It does help.
The addition itself, the mass, is not a large request. When you look at you take away the porch, the wraparound porches, and you look just at the footprint, it's misleading because you've got 35 feet all in, but that includes the porch. So a true measurement of just the structure itself would have been beneficial, because then we could see the width of it as compared to the width of the main house from the gable end. So in A1, you have the length of the main house, and then you have the length of the new addition called out, correct?
Correct.
Right, but the new addition, but when you go back to A3 and you look at that elevation, of the left side elevation, the actual A1 footprint dimensions are somewhat misleading, because a lot of that is only one-story porch, and a lot of that is back flat roof porch. So the mass of the addition is in keeping with the house, as an opinion. I think that the conversation seems to be returning to the ridge line. The house has so much interest, and when you look at it on A3, with the dormers and the turret dormer and all the windows and the doors and everything else, there's a lot going on that makes the house very active. And then the addition is in scale to that, because when you remove the porches and everything else, and you just focus what the addition is to the main house, the scale seems to represent.
That was the idea.
Right.
Yeah.
So what everybody seems to be discussing more so than the scale or the volume or the footprint of the design is the desire to make the rear elevation, the rear addition elevation, somewhat subservient to the original structure, even with a fading grade. And one of the ways to do that has always been by reducing the ridge line of the addition. And then that really just helps put it in place in its volume to the rear of the structure as it recedes back even further. So in this case, because you've got the large flat roof plane facing the front gable, you're going to see a lot of asphalt with the smaller downsized dormer. And that's just a lot of roof facing forward with a higher ridge line than the main house. So I didn't know if there was a way in the design aspect through an engineered joist system of a TJI or something, or to try and keep the same ceiling heights and then lower the distance between the first and second floor of the addition, pulling that down and create a tray ceiling inside or something to get the volume back without trying to lose not a lot of interior space. Because going from a 12 to a 10, you're going to pick up about 18 inches in drop of ridge based on a 12 to 1 ratio. So if the main house is 24 feet, the ridge will be 12 feet high, correct?
Correct. And I understand what you're saying, but the floor-to-floor heights, or the floor-to-ceiling heights aren't generous in this house anyway, so any kind of decrease in that span would...
I'm saying through non-conventional lumber can it be reached?
Right, it's...
I guess going back to my earlier statement that the width of the addition itself is not what we call for a 16-inch TJI or a massive structure, or, clear span and a 2x.
We'll get creative when it comes time for the frame to keep it as, minimal as possible, but...
Again, that's what I'm trying to drive at is...
But even doing that within this framework, this massing, we'll do that nonetheless, but that's just going to be because the room, the first floor room is it's a nice footprint, it's a big room, and if we have anything less than the maximum height ceiling that we're sort of tied into because of the existing conditions and the restraints, that we'll be engineering lumber and doing that creative frame no matter what, and that's still going to be just probably on the edge of where it needs to be. It could always be higher, but you just can't always get that in these old homes.
And I think one of the challenges of it being an old home that I see time and time again is trying to put conventional modern lumber and codes up against, 1825 building practices. And something's always got to give.
Right, and that's...
So you can't go down, so you got to go up.
There it is.
And I'm just trying to control that. I'm not trying to control it. I think the inference would be to
and I'm
try and control that height.
We're on the same page, I'm trying to do the same thing.
I don't want to speak for any, I shouldn't have said it that way. I shouldn't speak for any of the members of the board. My concern is the higher ridge line.
Right.
That's where the rest of the design seems to be very well in keeping with, and it flows beautifully with the house.
Right.
But that would be the concern that I would see here would be finding a way to, even if it is 6 inches, 8 inches a foot, to lowering that, if it not only just even comes close to matching it.
That's certainly on my mind when if this goes to the next level, then we get into the engineering. That's when I want this thing to be as low as possible. I'd like to get it below the main house if that's possible. I don't think it is, but time will tell once we get into the real nuts and bolts of the frame system.
It seems to me, in looking at this,
in the big picture, that the cross gable that comes off of that roof of the addition helps break down the mass of that roof.
I agree. I was going to mention that because it minimizes the amount of asphalt
Exactly.
that we're seeing, and the house, has a lot of interest. So that, I think Sean agrees.
Clearly from the street, it didn't appear to be taller. It really doesn't.
That's the-
It was,
yeah, that was,
we spent a lot of time out there, and it clearly, it's just that it's a, maybe it's actually a little taller, but the visual from the street, which is what our concern is.
right.
Not being familiar with the site, is there an ability to put a step down on the hall connection that would give you more volume on the family room ceiling regardless?
Yeah, but again, we're working against the grade too, so.
I'm not familiar with the site, so, I mean, that would give you, is there ability to step the grade down or no?
Yeah,
I see
but-
a step down on the front elevation. Does the grade head back up?
It heads up.
Now, the family room and the upstairs master bath, the master bedroom is 20 feet.
You were to keep the pitch the same on that roof. You brought it down a foot or so, foot and a half, whatever it is, and you had an 18-foot bedroom. Is that, I mean, that's still a pretty good size.
Not so much the bedroom, it's the bathroom that gets compromised. And I've done the exercise, it just, and Deborah just mentioned to me when we sat down that I didn't show the tub that is required in that bathroom. So, now it's getting smaller, so it's just a little bit up against it. And then, again, they're not hugely gracious rooms, they're just very proportionate. And then you've got, the eave cutting into that, and
Well,
it creates visual interest, but it doesn't take away from the flow.
Could the family room and the master be a little bit, wider towards the back, where you could hide it and still have the same square footage in the bathroom? If you brought, if it was, 18, but then you elongated here. This is the first floor. What if you took this out? You picked up the space here in the rear, right? Picked up the space here. So you got a little bit more space for the master bath. But then you've got 18 foot, and then you could keep the 12 pitch on the roof, and then you can bring it down a foot. Is that
It's
something?
worth studying, yeah, I would say that's a valid,
Is that? I just, if this was a little bit tighter, right? If this was 18, and you could keep take 2 feet off the width of the building, and then you had to keep the
But there is
pitch
a-
the same,
there
the
is
height
a-
would come down.
when you look at the site plan and the property line on the angle, I am trying to allow access to that smaller triangle shape, where I've pinched it off almost totally to really isolate that L-shaped, reverse L on the top right corner of the existing, where the existing meets the new stair. That's sort of just a place that you can't get to for any useful purpose, whereas the next quadrant is available, but if I move that mass over, then that's going to become another sort of just a lost space in the backyard. Now, these aren't hugely important, but they are little quality pockets of landscaping opportunities.
You may have mentioned this in the previous meeting, but in terms of setback from property, are you going to need a variance for where that stair is coming out? It looks
No,
like
I
it's
need
pretty
to go
close.
through zoning next, but the way I interpret the bylaw, that angled property line is the side yard. It's not, and it's not, and the house is existing non-conforming with respect to that side yard setback, so we can go as close
As the
to
existing house?
Yeah, the Hatfield, so we can, and that's what I've done. So I've really maximized, and it's right on the property line.
Okay.
Or, right, basically right on the property.
One other question I had was in regard to the columns. You have a note that says 10-inch painted PVC columns. Are those are probably going to be visible from the street, right? I mean, you'll probably see those as it comes away.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know that we've approved PVC yet.
Okay.
I think we've considered fiberglass, but fiberglass was replacing existing concrete columns, which were not able to be remade. So I don't know if the commission is interested in considering other materials in this location, but as it's visible from the street, we don't typically approve PVC in those locations.
You don't happen to have any cuts of that, do you?
Not on my person.
Okay.
But if wood column is the standard, then we can amend that, I can,
And I think we've had, is it correct, John, where the base may be fiberglass or
Basically,
PVC or?
capitals can be fiberglass or non-phenolic,
Yeah.
but I would check on the wooden columns for structural load, because you got that porch roof sitting on it anyway.
right?
So I don't know what the wooden columns are still rated for and the longevity of them.
Any other questions or comments?
Well,
Go ahead, Rose.
if the garage goes, it'd be wonderful.
We didn't mention that, that's,
I know.
of course.
You know, I thank the comments from John and Chuck and the people that are really into, being able to read all these things. Historically, I think you're trying to be subservient to the house. And I would just take the ridgeline comments and work with them. But when I was out there, I felt that it really slipped back. And I think, you have a nice little space. Garage takes up a lot of space. I don't think you're overbuilding what's there.
Right.
I could see the receding of the ridge line. It would be nice, I guess, if you could drop it a little. But I think it's a very appropriate kind of addition to this house, because the house is still presenting itself from the street.
Yeah, I was sensitive to that also, and I was pleasantly surprised when the ridge beam went up, that it wasn't, in my opinion, overwhelming or overbearing or
I agree.
distracting.
I agree with you.
The small nuance changes from the original plan to the one being proposed today, this is a far superior plan. It really all
Yeah.
tied together and worked out very nicely for you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask the architects, builders, one question? If the ridge line was dropped to the same height as the peak of the original house, would that front gable, is it okay if that front gable matched that ridge height? Would the architects be okay with that, or would that need to be dropped further too? You know what I'm saying? If this ridge height came down, is this gable, if this gable matched the height of the ridge line, would that be okay? Or would that gable need to come down again too, to give you some space between the ridge?
The only way, if you don't have a grade elevation where you could drop or step the addition or the whole addition down and do it that way, it's very difficult to match existing floor conditions and ceiling heights. Typically, you shoot for floor heights first, and then the ceiling in the addition is always lower than the main house, because you can't have two things being even with modern construction materials, that the original might be 8 inches and what's being called is 10 or 12, so you wouldn't want to step up into it, so you'd want to flush transfer, so it has to go down, and you can only push the structure so far down, and then the end result is the roof line has to go up. So you're caught between two fixed points, and then wanting to meet modern code with ceiling heights and egress and such, you start running out of options. And to change the pitch from a 12 to an 11 wouldn't be the height gain that you'd be looking for. You'd have to go to something from a 12 to a 10, or a 12 to an 8, or 12 to a 9 to get a sizable ridge drop. It doesn't happen that quickly, because it's a mathematical equation. In a 12, the distance up is half the distance out, making a triangle. A 45 triangle, so it's a perfect triangle. As the building width stays the same and the ridge drops, that triangle changes and it compresses inside. It has nowhere else to go. So at some point, it becomes non-successful to try and crush that down much further. I think in this case where the addition is set back, it's got the large turreted dormer. The house has large dormers on it. The lack of the big chimney in the back, losing that chimney in the roof line, which was far larger than and higher than the original house chimney. The porch roof coming into play and lowering the railings in the back. Everything in the front dormers being downsized. Everything has been minimalized to a point where I'm not sure, to keep the design as it is, it could go much further down and still maintain a historically significant shape to the gable end of the structure. I think if you get it too flat, it starts to look too modern. So the answer to, that was a long round way to answer your question, is I would not have a problem if the ridge lines meet between the front dormer and the main addition roof line. I just don't know if there's a mathematical and a geometric way to make that happen. I don't think there's enough space between an A and B point to lower that much further than it is. I think if it could be done in the design aspect and construction aspect with the use of materials, that would all be beneficial. You know, a couple 2 inches here in this floor and an inch there in that ceiling, and maybe tray the ceilings and try and reduce the height of things and give a vaulted ceiling as opposed to a flat ceiling in that condition. Then you'd still have the interior volume space, but you would have the ability to move the plates in and lower the roof line down a little bit.
Okay. Let me throw this out for the commission. Maybe Al, if you could study a drop where the ridge heights are similar for both buildings. Keep this set of drawings. I don't know how it's going to look on the new set, but just to do some studies for us, I think that's probably what people are, what I'm hearing. And then we can compare. The changes you made from the original, I think are a vast improvement. I really like the scale of this, and I'm wondering if if you do tighten this up, it may not work, but we'd certainly like to see it. And maybe there's enough room towards the back where you can conceal it and get the space you need for the interior, for the bedroom, the family room, and the bathroom. So you give up a little bit on the height, but then you pick it up in the, towards the rear. I don't know if it works or not, but.
Zoning?
Probably is.
Yeah, this is really not good, in my opinion.
I personally don't have the problem that others have on this commission with the design as it exists. The ridge, as far as I'm concerned, is not apparent on site when I see that ridge built and constructed. I just don't see it. It fades away enough for me that I think.
Does anyone want to second that?
I don't think a study I don't think it's doable mathematically.
And I appreciate what Hans is saying, but it would be so subtle, and I don't even know, the rendering wouldn't even change. It would change so subtly. I know the schematic elevations change, but they're not real drawing. They're real for information, but they don't speak to what you actually feel when you're at the site. So, and again, I'm sensitive to keeping the mass down, and that's the goal, is to keep it as thoughtful as it relates to the main house as possible. But, and I'll study if that's the direction the board wants to go. But I
actually think the story poles, which if you don't use, I need kindling, okay?
They gotta go somewhere.
Come on, I've been using them for laundry.
You are so clever. Being out there, I think it does recede. I think if you wanted to make changes from any of the suggestions that were done here, that's something you could think about over the week. But I would like to make a motion that we move on these plans, get you started, because being out there, I felt it was a very sensitive way to do things. So, I'm going to make a motion. Can I do that?
Of course you can.
To accept and issue a certificate to, what's the address?
203 North.
203 North. I am looking at the plans dated 9/17/15. A1, A2, A3, and the last page not having a letter, so we'll make it 4.
I think it's we can call it just the site plan.
Yep.
Okay, the site plan. It would be for the bulk of what you're doing, because there are no details here. Gutters, doors, windows, lighting fixtures, all that kind of things, and we will have to talk about the columns. But I think this is appropriate to the plot.
I will second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay?
3-2.
A squeaker. No, thank you.
So,
But again,
Yeah.
we're on the same page here.
I think so.
Yeah, very much so. So,
This was not in the motion, but I think we need to see what you're planning on doing with those columns that are presently called PVC.
yeah,
Yeah, it was.
Was it
I
in the
did, I
motion?
mentioned.
Okay,
But the details.
All those details have to.
all right.
So Alan, you bring back cut sheets on doors, windows, columns, light fixtures.
yeah, and I'll study, and who knows, maybe it'll come right back down to, where the lines of the main ridge, and it's a win-win for them.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you all.
good, thanks for coming in. Okay. Next up, 24 Middle Street. This is a continuation for some work on the driveway. Sean, thanks for coming in again.
Oh, thank you. Sheet, I have the 11 by 17.
I'm sorry?
I have 11 by 17
Okay.
that I can hand you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Make sure I've got enough. No, we got plenty. I did realize though that when I did this, some of these printed off, some of them didn't. One's the cover.
Thanks, Sean.
Larger print. Not the easy larger print, they all have larger. Thank you. Sean Papich Landscape Architecture, 222 North Street, right here in Hingham. So the driveway was, I believe, the element that we were, and the only element we were really getting into tonight. Hans, you wanted your cobble.
Yep.
Couldn't necessarily deliver an entire cobble driveway in the way you may have wanted it. What we did show on here, what's illustrated here, is brick, City Hall paver brick, is what we were proposing. Still proposing the granite slab out at the edge of the sidewalk. Proposing granite cobbles at the edge of the carriage house. That's still probably it's about 104 feet from the street to this back part of the house. Is what we were, it's about 104 feet to that
About
depth.
18 feet wide.
What's that?
About 18 feet wide. where
Right in
I
this
walked
point?
it today.
Yeah, there you go. And then, what'd you say, this right here is?
I was up there today.
Okay.
And I thought that there were going to be samples out, and I did walk up the driveway, and there were just a couple blocks on that.
Those were the old, this could have been the granite, but there were probably the old concrete samples.
Yeah, there were concrete.
But we were going to the brick, the red brick.
Okay, so you moved.
We were going for City Hall paver. We talked last time about going instead of a concrete paver to a cobble, a City Hall paver, or some sort of brick paver, so we were gonna go with the traditional City Hall paver. That was the intent. Because of the heating system, we wanted it to be segmental for the most part.
Now, what does that look like? I don't know. what
City
that
Hall
looks
paver?
like, Yeah.
Oh, it's the same red brick you see every place, so we've got it at, I did have a photo of one. Right down at the Ashters, there's City Hall paver. There's Pine Hall, that's Pine Hall, it's slightly different, yeah, it's slightly different. City Hall's I suppose it's the oldest looking brick we've got. It's the standard by which everything else is measured when it comes down to it. It's somewhat irregular. It's a tumble to, some guys that do the paving think it's very irregular. So they wouldn't say somewhat. Here's an image of one on Main Street that you've seen. Also, the Asher's a few doors down from the Monteros.
Where is that?
This is right on Main Street, right, oh goodness, I don't remember, but it's the one where they're doing some renovation right now, right near
It's in the
Clark.
corner of Clark Street?
Clark Road, yeah, Clark Road, yep, exactly. So that's been there for a little while. The Asher's has been there for quite some time with cobble accents. We still intend to use the salvage cobbles at the carriage house, and potentially the salvaged cobbles or salvaged curbing laid flat here. We are talking about going back and using the asphalt in this area because they wanted it for a flat surface, and when I didn't realize they were talking about using like street hockey type activities on it, and that doesn't work with brick at all. So that's why they wanted to go the asphalt. That's still quite a bit of a distance back.
Will it be the same asphalt that's there? 'Cause that's
Yes,
what we did.
it would be the same as there,
Their
yeah.
driveway is,
Yeah.
I hate, it really flows.
Yeah, it would be-
It's strange to say for asphalt, but
I understand
it
that.
really is like
Yeah.
nondescript, doesn't compete with the house.
Right.
But that has to come up in order to heat it, right?
Well, that was the intent, yeah, to put the heat in, yes, it would be. And he would like to have the majority of this driveway, the ability to pull up the units, just in case he needs to get into it. Sacrificing the fact that he wants this to be very smooth, he would do the asphalt back into this area, back into the carriage
Where's
house.
the back door on that picture?
Back door's all the way in this back
Okay.
corner hidden.
So, now
You
I
see
know.
this, this is in the last package, I didn't have it in this one. But I actually don't even think the transition is visible, to be quite honest. It's so far back, it's hardly visible to see to the back into this edge.
And the front walk would still match?
Yes, that's correct. It's still City Hall
You're
pavement.
gonna still do the same?
Yeah, same thing.
So the brick I
City
saw
Hall pavement.
today is what you're sort of
Yes, on the front
intending
walk, you do see that.
to use.
So that was our intention.
Well, my question, because I have been thinking about this,
Okay?
when we were over on North Street, and I was looking at a driveway, is there a way to break up like that continuous pattern
A brick?
of brick?
Yeah, we were,
Just-
yeah.
Something.
Well, we were intending to break it up just with the patterning we're using. We were going to give a feel of wheel runs, essentially is what I like to call them, and do it in a different pattern. You certainly have, I don't know that you've seen that a lot in brick. You'll see different patterns in brick, but we were wanting to break it up that way. There may be some ability to break it across the driveway. I don't know that it's necessary. I don't know, I think it's fairly subtle. I don't know it's something that would make a huge difference. We were doing it as a design move, not so much as a mitigation of saying, hey, I'm brick and but I don't want to be brick or anything like that.
Marty
That's not what we were
talked,
doing.
Marty, you talked about that, like the constant repetitive brick part, and I just got to thinking that maybe just a break in it would make it,
I think there's a lot of brick here, and I think the wave pattern you've got is gonna be very interesting, and it'll add some interest to it.
Dimension perhaps or something.
Right. I'm not having any problem with it. The brick really sort of falls in a lot better than those artificial pavers did.
Correct. I would agree.
So it's,
Are there any folks in the audience who would like to comment on this, that are butters or?
I didn't pass that
Oh.
down. Yeah, I'm
Tomas and,
sorry.
It's about new copies. It's around.
Any other thoughts from the commission?
What about the end of the driveway?
And the driveway was
Street.
right here.
Yeah.
Large
Oh,
granite
yeah.
slabs. Those are going to be large antique granite pieces. We've used those around town quite a bit. Those would be antique. Quite often, those are curbs. If we get them, still with some character, but a little bit flat enough, we lay them flat. Correct. Yeah, it's exactly, it's in the original submittal. That's correct. Yes. That's correct.
Yeah. So Sean, I'm going to stick with my original thought from last time, that I'd much rather see antique cobbles, new cobbles, or even asphalt over this. I think the brick is going to compete with the house. I think there's going to be a lot of red, a lot of brick. It's such a, I would want to have like a subtle driveway that kind of continues to, I don't want to draw my eye away from the house. I want to continue to appreciate the house. I want to continue to appreciate the house next door and the other house next door. I just think there's a lot of red brick here for a driveway. And I know up the street there's brick up on Middle Street. It's a smaller driveway. It's a courtyardy kind of look to it. But I would be more in favor of something that is a little more subtle than the red, than a brick. I want to just keep it, just play down the driveway as much as I could. Just my thoughts.
Are these bricks laid flat, or are they laid on edge?
So we'll have the edge treatment will be laid on edge but flush. So it'll be on edge but flush. It'll be a linear course, a narrow linear course. The other ones will be laid flat.
Are you doing sand as a sub?
Yeah, it'd be a sand.
So in case something goes wrong with the electrical system, you can lift it up
That's the
and
intent.
attend to it,
That's the
okay.
intent. If you go to another brick of some kind that is a grayer, browner brick, I think it's going to look like the concrete pavers we were looking at. So the red brick is the most traditional thing we have in our region, I think, other than the granite, and I think the red brick's appropriate.
So Sean, I looked at this and I only brought one copy. The picture's not very good, but this
Yeah.
is, are you familiar with that particular one? So what it is, it is a paver, but it is produced specifically to look like cobble, and comes in different sizes as well. So,
And it is granite.
it is granite, yes, and it does have the right thickness, meaning it could be used, so. That's a unilock.
Any more discussion? We could take a vote at this point. I mean, I'm not sure where people are coming out on this, but,
I think someone needs to replace me because I was not present for the August meeting.
okay. So we'll have Lois, myself, Mike, Chuck, you weren't here, Marty, can you be a voting member? And Tomas, yep.
I wasn't on the...
Oh, you weren't here last week?
original August.
Okay, Ben? Okay, Ben, so that'll be 5. Okay, would somebody like to make?
I just have a question. Do we have a picture of what the wheel runs look like?
Well, I have it just drafted on the drawing, but I don't have an actual image.
Can you explain that in a little more
Yeah.
detail, please?
Yeah, so what we intended to do, look on the drawing, what we intended to do is it would be 3 foot of running bond pattern, then we would do herringbone for the 2 runs, essentially, this one, and do 3 feet of running bond. So essentially it'd be It'd be something of a wheel track that would be done in a herringbone pattern. The rest of it will be running bond pattern, subway tile pattern that you're used to seeing, much like you see in some of the pictures. You also see the herringbone, of course. We're using that front walkway.
Okay, thank you.
You're really going to have to look pretty carefully to see the change in the pattern. You have to be almost on top of it, really.
Pretty subtle. It's a subtle, but it's
Very
a
subtle.
nuance.
Color
that
is the same.
Yeah, to be appreciated to people who can appreciate it, I suppose.
And that person has to install it.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not the one installing it, because, well, they curse me. But I think the brick material is, if it's not the most traditional material we've got to use in our toolbox, it is the second. And I think there could be some opportunity to look into this, but I'd like to find out, I mean, I think that would be appropriate, obviously it's me asking for it, that this could be approved and that I can talk with the Monteros about this as an option. I don't know that, in my mind, as a landscape architect, that they would only be held to just granite or asphalt at this point. But you're going to tell me that, I guess. I guess that's why I'd ask for that consideration. I can certainly talk to them about whether or not they'd be interested in something like this. I'd also be interested to see the samples and seeing if it really, unless you look at these, even though it's granite, it's going to look, might start to look like, might look very much like.
Could you show us that, please?
Yes.
Well, the reason is that I know a person that's done an awful lot of work with me on stonemason and stuff.
Correct.
And he said that he described this particular thing.
So I just went online and looked for pavers specifically
Somebody
for
down on
this purpose that
123
have that
carried it
granite feel.
in Stoughton, or down in the Stoughton area, somebody is carrying this, and he has used it.
Yeah.
And it is real granite, it's only 2 inches thick, though, so
Yes.
it's not like the real paver block.
Correct.
It looks like a block.
So there might be some potential there, it's just that, I think there could be some potential for that to come off looking like.
Since
like
it's a real piece of granite,
It is.
it's not a pre-made concrete thing.
That's correct, and so for there, it might be a potential, but also might have the potential, because it is so rigid in its shape and its dimension, to almost look like the concrete paver that you're trying to avoid. So it might very well be really nice material that looks bad, and once it's installed in this setting, and if it's an opportunity, it would be great to say, hey, you have an opportunity to utilize a material, that's a very specific material made by a specific fabricator and supplier from another country, bringing that in.
Yeah.
It's imported granite of some kind. I would hate to be held to that,
So we
and
don't
that
know
alone.
what color the granite is exactly.
I don't know for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I personally don't know it, but I like the idea.
I don't know either.
I like the idea of it. I would hate for
But it could be grainier or a different color or something
be.
else, because there's granite all over this country. It's
There
a
is.
different
tones.
grains and different hardness, too.
correct.
Sean, I think for the board to consider that, we definitely need to see a sample of
Well,
that.
that's- Yeah, for us to consider
And we
too.
talked about how some of these things looked very contemporary, they were very smooth,
Correct.
and I think we're all leaning towards something a little more rustic, antique looking,
Understand.
that fits in with the period of the house.
Agree.
So I think at this time, if the commission is ready to move forward, we can vote on this. If somebody'd like to make a motion.
What happens if it's turned down?
If it's turned down, then they can come up with something else, another plan,
You
or
just come back?
come back, or,
I can make a motion.
okay, Ben?
I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for 222 North Street.
24 minutes.
I think it's 24 Middle Street.
That's fine.
Oh, he's on
But we can put stuff over there too. That might be too far.
Your driveway.
24 Middle Street.
My office. That's my office.
Sean Papich, landscape plan dated September 17th, 2015, as drawn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Nay?
For you too.
Okay, you got it.
Squeaker?
Got it.
Squeaker of
Good
the
luck.
night.
Thanks for coming in, Sean.
Not sure that the herringbone.
All right, sorry for the slight delay. Next, we have the bathing beach. And I appreciate you guys coming in.
Exactly.
So for the viewers at home, there's going to be some significant work done to the bathing beach, which is right down the street from the so-called Selectmen's Beach. And there's going to be some regrading of the beach itself, a wall put in, there's going to be some plantings, there's going to be a walkway. This is part of the overall plan to reinvigorate the harbor area in Hingham, which is going to be, I think, a great success over time. Appreciate you guys coming in.
Thank you for having us. I'm Alan Peralt. I'm the chairman of the Bathing Beach Trustees, and Ed Johnson, the other trustees here with me. He is a little bit of a precursor. I think all of you know there's been a long time studying some of these issues here. There was a harbor master plan done by the Harbor Development Committee. The chairman, Bill Reedman's actually here. Neither of us were on the Harbor Development Committee that was done, but one of the thoughts even back then was creating a boardwalk and doing some things. Less of it about seaport resiliency. That's kind of a newer thing. We're a little bit more aware of some of the coastal impacts in the last few years. So when the talk was about boardwalk in 2007, it was an aesthetic talk. It wasn't something we'll move the parking lot back and try to save the beach and do a boardwalk in conjunction. It was really more of an aesthetic idea, a new bathhouse, possibly a snack shop, and a continual walkway. As we've gone along, though, we've realized that we have to look at the physical infrastructure here, as step one, if we're going to have anything aesthetic to look at. And we, a couple of years ago, we got CPC funding to design do a lot of the engineering for this project. And step one was replacing a very loose stone revetment that was done under the auspices of the Army Corps of Engineers about 20-odd years ago. Oh, sure. Done about 20-odd years ago, and it was very loose, and it didn't do it. One thing, the elevation was wrong. It was really only done to elevation 12, and the flood elevation shifted. And so we did a larger revetment that was permitted. It now has an elevation of about 14.5, and if you've seen that, it's done famously since last winter when we put it in. So that was step one, to do that. And then the next concept was, and it was actually returned a little bit so it protected this area from, because we have a serious fetch over here. It doesn't look like it, but it can almost be a mile going across. So this thing can take some serious beating. And just to see it, this is from this lower right-hand corner, is what happened about 2 winters ago. You can see it. It really undermined the parking lot. We were fortunate that the Concom agreed that that was the limit of the paving. We almost lost some of it, but they said, okay, at least this is the line where the existing paving exists. And since that year, 2 years ago, we haven't anything like it. We probably will. Last winter, quite honestly, as severe as the winter was, we lucked out because of the ice. The ice that froze in the harbor stopped a lot of the erosion we probably would have had along the parking lot. So Polaris Engineering was the engineering consultant the trustees hired, and they came up with the design for the revetment. And the other concept was to retreat the parking lot. So we're actually sacrificing asphalt. I know this isn't the purview of the Historic District Commission, but just that's the genesis of how this project came about, was to do that. And part of the reason people ask, well, how do the parking spaces work? If you're actually down there, and some of the members were down there on Saturday, where the first row is, there's almost like 35 feet behind the first row of parking. Not enough you could have got a second row, but you went about 35 to almost 40 feet before you hit the next row. So quite honestly, sacrificing 15 to 20 feet of asphalt doesn't hurt us. And we've increased the resource area. So from the Conservation Commission and whatever, we have less pervious surface. It all drains, by the way, to a swale away from the water. The Concom has already approved this project and issued an order of conditions. So before we even get the town meeting funding this year, we already had Concom's buy-in, which also included a beach management plan on how to handle the sand that keeps moving around here. we're hoping it'll move less. It tends to drift this way towards the boat ramp. And as Bill can vouch, the advantage of doing the beach management plan is hopefully the state is now going to fund both the study and the construction of a new boat ramp, because they weren't going to do it until we could handle the sand. So it's kind of all integrated to many of the other projects we're doing. And so what the concept was in the process of doing this was to cut it back, and we're going to end up actually doing let me get to another profile. Again, there's the damage that was done. And this shows how this whole area is going to be kind of regraded. And, so we're going to have much more grass. This is all going to be a grassed area where it's kind of orange. That's going to be like a beach grass, which will hopefully, that's all going to be in front of this buried wall. So the idea being that the slope is going to be more gradual because we're pulling it back. If you go to what I call the Selectmen's Beach, the pitch is much more gradual there. So they don't have the same erosion issue we do at the bathing beach. Because ours is so much steeper, it gets scarped when we have a really high coastal storm. So by making it a little more gradual, we're hoping we keep more anyway. But then with the beach grass and everything else planted there, it should help stabilize that. So I think the next plane is going to show a profile, I believe, of the wall. One of the questions that came up, part of this project is to have a couple of walkways, and they become kind of these rollout walkways onto the sand, which will give us handicap accessibility to the beach that we really don't have right now. One of the questions that came up the other day, could it be, I forget who raised it, could it be wood as well as like a Trex material? And it can be. And apparently the cost is very comparable. So if that was the preference of the commission, that could be. It's a real dense wood. Both the wood and the Trex are subject in that situation to warping and sun damage, but no product is perfect in that scenario. So you'd probably see this down the Cape in a few cases. You roll it out and you take it back at the end of the season. So that's kind of an image of that, which we had talked about. The other question is, what would some of the plantings be like? And you obviously know what the beach grass is looking like. There'd be some junipers in these beds. There'd also be like a Rosa Virginia. I mistakenly said you might do a Rosa rugosa. I guess that's an invasive plant, so you wouldn't use it. It would be a Rosa Virginia is the rose plant you'd use. And those are going to be planted in kind of this planting bed behind the wall. And then behind that, you're essentially going to have you'd also have a guardrail detail, kind of a wooden one like you've seen elsewhere. And then in some cases, to protect the planting, there would be, it's not going to be this high, but there's going to be like a sand fence. We tried it a couple of years ago. Some people may have remembered it, didn't, but it was also at the edge of the existing parking lot. And that was the year we had the coastal storm. So this is going to be pulled back significantly. It's going to hopefully stop a lot of the sand from drifting and also allow that beach grass to get established. That's the main reason that the fence is there, is more for the establishment of the grass in front of it. This is a profile of the wall, and essentially what you do is you go down and you do a crushed stone base, and then the blocks get increasingly smaller as you go up. They interlock. I think there was a feature, so they kind of interlock to one another. The first one is 5 feet, the next one's a little less than 2, the next one's a little more than 3, and the last one's 2 feet. The only part of this you're going to see is the very, very top of that. This is all essentially buried. And the hope is, with the grass establishing itself in front of it, is only in really rare cases are we going to be losing sand. Now, part of the plan is it may happen. If we had like a Hurricane Sandy event, we're probably going to have to come in and replenish some sand. So that's the detail. This is an example of the pavers. The one that's closest is probably the one in the corner over there, the red one, which is kind of similar to what's at North Street. I was down there tonight, so that's probably the closest thing to what has been used in the square. There might be a preference. I think the ones with the rounded edges, I don't know, the tighter bond might be better in that application, because the people coming and going from the beach. But we're up to what the commission is in favor of. And the part of the block that would be exposed is really kind of looks like, this is a man-made material, but the finish of it, very little of what you'd see is designed that if you did, it's going to look more like a granite block. It has to be man-made for it to interlock and for it to work from an engineering perspective. But the idea is we kind of picked this because we thought it was the most natural-looking material. I think those are most of the questions I think the commission asked the other day. Andrea? I think most of the profiles?
I think we've got everything, yes.
Okay. That's the last detail.
Yeah.
Terrific. Any
Yeah.
comments from the audience? Okay. Most of us were out to
to take a look last weekend. It was very helpful. Thank you. Got a nice picture of what the plan is and what the beach looks like now and the improvements that are being contemplated. I think, personally, I think it's a really terrific move to improve the beach and the parking situation there and make it more inviting, but also just a better use of space.
And we feel if we don't do this, quite honestly, we're going to lose this much of the asphalt anyway. So we figure we may as well be proactive, save it while we have the opportunity to. And it's going to create a little issues as far as we have to be creative with the farmer's market because we're losing a little bit of surface area, but we've already talked with them about ways that we can, move things around to still make it work. Because they kind of maximize, there's a little informal parking, if you will, that goes on when the farmer's market is busy on a Saturday. So we're going to have to be creative with that, but we've already met with them and say, look, we'll try to work that through between our parcel and the selectmen's parcel of how that happens, but I think overall it's an improvement. It's going to be a better experience for people. And we'll hopefully come back to you sometime with a bathhouse proposal, maybe another year or so, too.
So my main takeaways from the meeting last weekend were choice of brick. I think that was kind of up for discussion. The walkway down to the beach, should that be something that is more natural looking, or should it be something that is a composite material that may hold up better? But it sounds like you're suggesting either one could be good. But obviously you want to have something that is that works well for the beachgoers, people going down using that area. We want it to be inviting, and we want it to work well with the situation. So, any questions for the?
I think we talked about
Yeah.
looking at the tightness of the redder brick, that it's not got these rounded corners, that would make it a little bit safer if it was just a little tighter. I think that was our general opinion as we saw it laying down on the asphalt.
Bill Reardon and I had the same conversation, thinking that, again, I think it's going to, the tighter it is, the more likely it's going to stay there,
The other thing, conversation I had with Roger Menendez was... Can you speak into the mic, please? I'm Bill Reardon, Chairman of the Harbor Development Committee. Roger Fernandez and I have been having this conversation on a number of fronts, and the Harbor Development Committee is interested in this whole conversation because this is part of an attempted larger vision. So we're setting out maybe the first step. But Roger's point is the other issue with the tighter brick is maintenance. That the tighter these bricks can be together, the less likely that you're going to get grass coming up through. And that's if we look at some examples around town that have not worked well, it's because the grass has come up through. So he believes that is a better answer.
What's going to be the material underneath and in between the brick, if any?
I think it's going to be, I think he uses like a sand mixed, if you've been to the DPW building, it's got almost the same brick right there, and I think it's pretty similar. They would lay it the way they did around North Street, which has held up pretty well. I would happen to be there earlier tonight, and, notice it's really essentially that red brick.
He has a polymer mixed in with it.
Yeah, it's like,
Keeps it really tight.
Probably a polymeric sand, I think, Marty, that they use and mix with it. It's a hybrid type of thing, so it sets it a little harder than just sand, I did a patio last year with Sean, and that's what we used.
is
Yeah.
Is the walkway that's going to be chosen here for this area of the beach, is that going to be a continuation? Whatever is chosen here is going to continue to work for the rest of the project?
Yeah.
Is the decision being, I'm asking the decision going to
The
be made?
decision has not been made, and Harbor Development, when we had our conversation in August about this, mindful of your meeting, is, look, it may not make sense, or it may not be desirable, for example, in the selectmen's parcel, to take what is now grass and put a hard brick surface across it. There will be those who will think, well, gee, are we losing, from the conservation perspective, environmental perspective. Now, from the viewpoint of those who want the expanse of a walkway that can have tricycles or push carts, or these are some of the decisions that as a town we have to make. So I don't think that answer is clear. To be continued is the best I can answer.
I'm glad you raised that question. The other thing that, and Roger made me aware of this yesterday, right now, the pavers are an alternate, because we're just going to cut the parking lot enough to put the boardwalk in and construct everything else. And it's a budgetary thing. We have a budget of, I think, about $740,000. Now, hopefully, certainly from my perspective, I'd like to see the pavers in a formal boardwalk, but it's conceivable, and we're going to have less asphalt anyway. But if push comes to shove, we have to get the wall in, and we have to get the grass in. So the one sacrifice could be that we may have to do the pavers later. And quite honestly, the paving work, if we're going to repave the parking lot, is going to be next year. This work would be done probably by the end of the fall, like we did the revetment. It would be done somewhere probably around Thanksgiving or shortly thereafter that would be completed. Not a good time to repave the parking lot. So hopefully we'll have enough money in the budget. We had a little left over from the revetment, by the way, which allows us a little bit of leeway. If this does as well, certainly our priority, but regardless, it's not going to be done until probably next spring, late next spring at the earliest. You know, that whatever surface we're doing, we're going to use. But I think I'm with everyone else. I think we'd prefer that brick if we're going to use it.
So what's the alternative? Is it asphalt?
It'd be asphalt, you know. We'd have less, but, and certainly not our preference. I don't think, I think as a minimum, we'd have to stamp it or do something, because I don't think it's going to feel like it's a pedestrian way. I mean, it's going to be buffered and the parking spaces won't be there. But I think that's a sad alternative, but we can't do it. So we'll see what we can do.
Is the broken yellow line necessary on the brick? We discussed that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to ask that. Again, we'll have time to discuss. We could even come back, because we're not going to end up doing that till like next spring or something. So I think we can kind of work that out for him with, and these contractors won't do it. The DPW will end up doing that aspect of it anyway. So I think we can address that then.
Do you have a sample of the rollout?
I wasn't able to get one in the time frame we had, but I mean, that's why they tried to get a couple of pictures of what it was, and they said, they really, I was surprised, the material is not a delta between one and the other. And I guess you wouldn't want to use it. They did check some of the woods you don't want to use. There's like cedars and others that are prone to splinters in a horizontal application. And I think this wood is like so dense. It's all, you know, it's you know, that there's not much that can be done to it other than a little bit of sun and, you know, seasonal warping or something. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to, you know.
Okay. In this application, just taking a quick poll, would commission members like to see a natural wood or a composite here?
I'd like natural.
Yeah.
I'd prefer natural as long as we don't get splinters.
Yeah, I think that was my concern, too, Chuck. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other points that people came away from the site visit with? Either clarification? Okay.
There has to be something done.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it'll be done. If we don't do it, it's going to be...
Mother Nature is
Mother
just gonna
Nature's going to
take
take
care of
away probably as much or more asphalt than we're proposing to take away. And the town's been very good, I have to admit. I mean, we've got a good batting average. All the harbor projects I've worked on going to town meeting, whether it's CPC or town meeting. And I think people are seeing this as part of a, like Bill said, a bigger picture. And I think we've got a lot of the committees and commissions all kind of rowing together in this thing. I think we've tried to keep everything pretty open, and I think that's what's helped it, you know. But, and hopefully the Whitney Wharf Bridge this year and this project and the revetment, we're actually starting to see some of the efforts.
I just have one other question about, just way back, I think one of the original harbor master plans showed an actual wood boardwalk. And so, at what point, or why was that determined that that probably isn't going to work?
I guess the concern, Andrew, would be probably movement and things like that. The advantage if there was movement of type of materials, it's a lot easier with like individual bricks or a paver type of materials to say, okay, whereas if an entire walkway were to move or heave or something or other, you may have a problem with the integrity of the whole thing. And I think that's why in this area that was thought of. Now, it might be a more appropriate material if you suddenly were going across the grass area. And again, as Bill said, that's an open canvas right now, you know, but it might be more appropriate. And we've even said the boardwalk is just kind of a term, I think. And the more we've talked about it, it's like it's a pathway of some sort and a surface that people can go along that's continuous. Whether that material is the same all the way is another question.
Okay. Any other questions at this point? Okay. All right. How about I move forward? I'll make a motion here to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the trustee, for the bathing beach on Otis Street, for the trustees of the bathing beach. The project will consist of removing 14,000 square feet of existing pavement close to the beach, regrading the beach, constructing a concrete barrier with stone block. What type of block was that again?
It's essentially a cast block, you know, they're substantial again, I don't know what you want to call them.
Probably concrete and it's stamped on the outside.
Cast concrete block.
A tiered block wall is what it's being called.
To be covered by a newly constructed dune, and installing 350 feet of harbor walk to be made from pine hull brick. And this...
Specify which one?
This one is, we've got three different colors here that we didn't talk about. And will there be a combination of all three that you're proposing, or will it be...
I think the idea was to have one, yeah, so I think our preference was to probably one in the nearest corner to you.
This one here?
Yeah, I believe that's what's in North Street right now.
Okay, so in the motion, I'll say, there's not a letter on this, but there's D, E, and we'll call this F. So it's the, F, yeah, F.
There you go.
Brick F. And the project is based on Plan C2, C4, and C5 submitted to the commission. Also, photos of the site dated August 26, 2015. One of them looks like a winter picture, so that's not in August. So, I think that's it. Anything else that I'm missing?
The rollout?
Oh, yeah, the rollout, from the parking lot down to the sand will be constructed from a hardwood, a natural hardwood, to be determined.
Second?
A second?
I think you need to clarify voting members for this.
Oh, yeah, voting members, thank you, Chuck. Marty and Chuck, could you be voting members 4 and 5? And it will be Michael, myself, and Lois. Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great, thank you. Thanks for your work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Big improvement forward, big step forward.
It is, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, running a little bit late. Next up, we have 47 Fearing Road. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for having us out. To demolish an existing screen porch in the side of the house and construct a sunroom.
Oh, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, oh yeah, the letters.
A couple of, here they are, to be read into the record.
Okay. All right. So I know most of us were out to see the house. It was great. Do you want to give us a little overview, just for those that weren't there?
Yep, I will.
And for our audience.
In the audience.
Oh, yes. Some of you may know that the house is dated 1785 and was built by the person who founded the Hingham Institution for Savings, whose name I forget.
Samuel.
Samuel, good friend. And unfortunately, we don't have the photo that shows Loring Hall and nothing between Loring Hall and where the house stood at the Noble's former
Noble's camera store site, but that's what the town was. In 1932, the house was slaked and beams numbered, and it was moved by, it was Brad Sprout's first job out of MIT as an architect for his brother-in-law, Ross Broom, and they moved it up onto Fearing Road and rebuilt it, put really all the existing beams back in place, and didn't do much to the footprint, except put a garage on, and actually put the screen porch on at that time. That was not part of the original design, and I did include some of Brad's drawings of part of the house. So it was pretty much built, the front part as it was originally, and then built to his plans. We bought the house in 1970. We've lived there a few years and have not made any changes essentially to the footprint. My daughters remind me that their life would have been vastly improved if there'd been a family room space or something larger than 15 and a half feet square. And at this point, we would love to stay in Hingham, and the house has a lack to living these days that could be vastly improved by removing the screen porch, which was not original to it, and enlarging it somewhat, and building a sunroom that has the same character as the screen porch. We love the house, we have great reverence for it, but feel that a sunroom can be done in the same light character. It wouldn't be like an addition of, habitable living room space, but a breezy, appropriately proportioned pavilion reminiscent of a screen porch and a year-round sunroom, which, with wood, some quite elegant ones that Colby makes, very narrow profile, we painted black. The proportions would remain the same as the porch is now. It would, instead of Brad's semicircular louvered facade, we would put in an elliptical facade, which window, which is actually more in keeping with the federal style of house it is. And if you've been in the Baptist church, my view is that that ellipse and the vaulted space inside that gets washed with light would be the character of this vaulted interior. So we think that it adds immensely to the house as a livability, and that it's not detrimental to the neighborhood in any way, and in fact enhances it, as I think our neighbors may have suggested.
And if we didn't put on a sunroom, we would have to replace every piece of the existing porch, which is what started this whole project. I knew what we had to do with this.
Well, existing porch is about 11 by 14 and a half, so it's not really something we use.
So I think most of us were out to visit the site. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I think it's entirely appropriate for the house, the neighborhood, the setting. My only concern is you're not going to be able to see it from the street, because I'd like to be able to see it. It's going to be so...
We can talk.
So it's so well protected back there that it's so private that
It's just going to be a place where we get sun and we still have privacy, but, no drapery, just a pavilion. But thank you. I'd like to think that Brad Sprout and Charles Everett would approve of this, but I've renovated some Charlie Everett houses, and great respect for that era.
Just for the record, when was the porch put on?
It was part of the 1930s edition, but it didn't exist before that.
Okay. And we'll have some photographs of all that for our
Do we have
records.
pictures?
We have two photographs, one of the house when it was downtown, and one of it when it had just been moved. But I couldn't put my hands on them to show you the other day.
Do you want photos of the porch as it is now?
Anything you
Oh,
have.
for
that
documentation.
documents
What it was.
Okay, well, I think we
The
included some,
photographs
but I
don't
can
show
get
the
you some
porch. I
more.
mean, the one downtown didn't exist, and I don't recall that it shows in the photograph once it was on Fearing Road. I don't think you can see the porch.
Whatever you have. You know, we put it in the file, and someday, 100 years from now.
Yeah.
Someone will wanna know.
Oh, wow.
It belongs
here.
to the house.
Yeah, we have photos, but that's as it is now.
Yeah, and that's still important, we need.
Okay.
And as far as a demolition plan, it's pretty clear from the drawings here?
Existing
Okay.
outline. And I'd be following the same roof line, keeping the shutters, just extending it to the rear where it doesn't impact shutters or windows, so the impact from the street will be very minimal.
Anyone else? Any thoughts?
I've got a question for you, Sebby, with regard to the drawing that shows the end where the lunette is, and it has to do with the pilaster as it wraps around towards that particular elevation. Shouldn't that pilaster continue up towards where the return is of the gutter line? You know what I'm talking about?
Well, what I'd like to do is replicate the pilasters on the house.
Right.
Don't wrap completely, so, but I would wrap it somewhat, but I wouldn't equal the
That's
front
fine.
elevation.
What I'm talking about is, maybe I can show you. I'm talking about, shouldn't this come up to here? Because that's what it does, as opposed to, I'm not sure that these are closed or what.
Yeah, it does extend up, but I want to break and these are flush boards about, as they currently are. These are-
Okay, so these are flush
clapboards.
boards.
These are flush,
Okay,
and, but it would extend the same way this does.
all right, fine. That's all I have a question about. Because the implication was that this stopped right there. And if you look at basically
So it'd be the same as
this,
this. That'd be the
that
same.
makes sense to
Yeah,
me to
it
continue
would
on
be the
there.
same.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Okay. Somebody like to make a motion? Mike? Oh, voting members, can I have, Tomas, could you join on this one? That would be great. And Chuck, could you vote on this one too? And Mike, myself, and Lois. Thank you. If somebody would like to make a motion, we can move forward with 47 Ferry Road. Sure.
Give me the paperwork, huh?
Mike will do it, but...
All right, Mike, you do it.
I'd like to make a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness to 47 Fearing Road for sunroom addition based on plans dated August 28, 2015, which would also include demolition of existing sunroom. Screen porch. Actually, question, roof is going to match, roof will match existing. Asphalt roof to match existing. That's probably it.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Oh, wait, we did not read.
Didn't read it.
Oh, sorry.
Why issued?
I do need to read them.
So we will, did you hear what they said?
Yeah, hold on a second.
You got the names wrong.
That's all right, we squared that away.
Okay. So we have two letters to enter into the record from abutters for 47 Fearing Road. The first one is from Charles and Ann Johnson on 43 Fearing Road. Dear Ms. Young, my wife Chris and I own a home at 43 Fearing Road, next to Sevy and Jane. I'm gonna Strekalowski. Thank you. You said that better than I could say it. We have been their neighbors since 1988. Recently, the Strefalowskis made us aware of their intention to create an addition on the east side of their home. Sevy included sketches of the proposed wing. We support this and recommend the town approve the request. And the second one is from Paul Wasson of 44 Fearing Road. Dear Ms. Young, I'm writing a letter in support of Strekalowski sunroom addition at 47 Fearing Road. As a neighbor, I think it will be a good addition to not only the house, but to the street as well. I look forward to its completion. Sincerely, Paul Wasson. Great. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night, Jane.
A couple minutes ahead.
Okay, so we're back on time. Hoping Mr. Capuano is outside.
Seen him?
Oh, no.
I put my pen away.
Get it out.
I really do. I think we could.
Something. So what are you saying, not done? Mine says done.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome. Good to see you all again.
All right. So you received some documentation from Andrea earlier this week?
I did.
About the meeting, so you understand why you're here?
I do.
Okay. Right. So I think the first order of business is just to go over what's happened to the front entryway, some of the changes that you've made there, and what you encountered. I think that'd be a big help for the commission.
Say that last part again?
I think it would be a big help for the commission to understand what's going on there.
So, the way we left it last time, we're going to take down the corbells.
I think they're talking, the term brackets is the term that we've been
They were
using.
actually called corbells.
Okay, so
So the corbells came down.
Okay, so back up a little bit. The way we left it was we were going to take those down?
I spoke to you all at the end and said they had to come down so we could see if they were rotted out or not. You said, we understand. Please interject.
Interject. At the end of the meeting, when we were talking about the portico and the brackets that hold it up, and I had had lengthy conversations with Ron, the builder, and...
Not the builder,
Well,
friend.
okay. We had had lengthy conversations, and my understanding was they were going to be taken down and restored. I think at our last meeting where we talked, I think we drifted off a little bit and talked about how to handle the portico.
We said the portico wasn't going to change. We said the portico
No,
was going to
exactly.
be restored.
No, I think we drifted off a little bit, and we talked about restoration. We talked about what could go on the roof. You at that time openly said there are squirrels and rot. And I think at that point, I felt that we had given permission for you to actually work on it. I went back into the notes. There is a notation that says, whatever you were doing, Andrea needed to know. But you got into a project, and I was there today. I pulled up. Mr. Fabiano came out to my car and invited me over to look. There has been, from the street, I would say, he has done an honest, from the heart restoration. You mentioned that the gutters are not the right size. And I was there when Hingham Lumber called.
And it wasn't planned.
I know, it wasn't planned. And what I'd like to do, what my goal here is, I think Mr. Fabiano loves his house. I think he's working from the heart. I think you're a little impulsive.
I'm a little driven is what I am, and impulsive.
And I'd like to get you in the house.
So wouldn't I.
Now, at that last meeting, I believe it was Virginia that mentioned that we could follow it a little more closely.
Now, Virginia wanted to put somebody sitting in the driveway, I believe.
Well, no, we're not going to do that. But I think we could do that. I'd be happy to help
That's good.
do that.
I would like that, actually.
Tomas will join me.
Sure.
I feel like I'm on the Shark Tank.
No.
Oh, if Tomas will join me. Because I want you in your house, and I think that we move it on. And I believe you've done, I think you've tried, I think you've done everything. The house is way more than you ever anticipated.
No, it is.
I
So, and I've done a lot of restorations.
And I appreciate
Okay.
what you've done. So, that being said,
Lois, thank you. So, we took those down, okay? And I have pictures of everything. You can see all the dry rot. We took the corbels down. The one on the left-hand side was completely rotted out. The one on the right-hand side weighed over 20 pounds. The one on the left-hand side weighed 2 pounds. The whole internal mechanism was completely rotted out from water. When we dipped them, and they were done by a restoration expert, it fell apart into 3 pieces. It took 8 weeks for a gentleman to build that again, okay? Every piece, when we took it apart, well, Andrew doesn't believe this, but this was inside. She's already told me that I could have got this. This was inside. This is what it looked like, right? I have pictures of it all. That's what it looked like. When we built it back up, I took 4 2x4s out of the house, ripped them out of the walls, so they'd be 100 years old or older, to build the frame. The rest of the wood was rotted. And by the way, here's the trim. They didn't make those nails back in the 1800s. All of that wood had been replaced at one time or another. So, in addition to that, I have pictures of length, width, rot, frame, 140-year-old wood. I took a 100-year-old door from the kitchen and restored it to the side of the wall of the house. There. It's black on the other side because it was black and I had to turn it around. Shutters, we talked about shutters. Everybody was concerned about shutters. I went out and trawled until I found the exact size, 17 by 65 and a half, that are over 50 years old. They're being sanded right now. My point is, I'm not trying to ruin the house. I'm trying to bring the house back to where it should be. My mistake again was communicating. And I can sit here and tell you I apologize till the cows come home. I am impulsive and I am driven. When we took it down at night, and here's why we took it down, because they were scraping the side of the house and somebody stood on it and almost fell through it. There was a thin sheet of metal that you probably saw that I left on the ground because I put
sawhorses with yellow tape around it, just in case anybody wanted to see what it looked like. We didn't throw it in the dumpster right away. We left it there so we could bring pieces to it, right? Underneath that, there was a thin piece of cardboard, a membrane. That's why all the water was getting in there. There was mold in there, dry rot. I don't know about you guys, but there's no possible way that the building inspector, and you were there, I said, would you have let me close it up like that? He's like, absolutely not.
What's left of the original overhang?
The corbels,
Okay, just the brackets are there.
just those brackets. And
Okay.
those brackets are brought back to the original, to what they were. They are going to be painted. As you notice, they're painting the house right now. I've told them not to touch that.
But everything else has been replaced.
Everything else has been replaced. The internal pieces are 140 years old. There's only, I just want you to understand, there's only 4 pieces of wood there. There always only was 4 pieces of wood there. The molding, right, that had so much paint on it, lead paint, that couldn't come off no matter what I did, Astragal, I went out and bought it, right, and then had it cut down, okay, to meet the same standards of what it looked like. I'm doing everything in my power to get in there, and here's one other thing. While Lois was there today, another gentleman came by that's lived on Garrison for 35 years. Why don't you tell him what he said, right? That the house has been a horror since he's lived there, and now it's starting to look like something. Everybody that goes by says that. Now, I don't know, because to tell you the truth, my sons went to, I have one left at St. Paul's. I never came down Main Street that way. I used to cut down that little side street, so I always went by there. So I don't know what it looked like until I bought it, and it was a dump.
Okay. Mr. Fopiano, we want you in that house. We want the project completed.
Yeah.
We want it done right.
Yeah.
We want to respect the house. We want to protect the streetscape. That's our job.
And the
here.
streetscape has not changed, one iota.
What I want to do is I want to talk about the minutes from the last
Yes, sir.
time you were in
Yes, sir.
here. And Andrea, I think you've got a copy up to give to him, just to make sure that you have a copy, and I've highlighted exactly what we talked
Yes,
about
sir.
with the front entry.
Well, okay, I just want to say one thing before you go there, right? You may not believe this, but I wish you brought your notes, because we talked about those corbels coming down, because we needed to explode what was inside of it.
Okay.
And you agreed. You agreed.
That's fine, but I'm going to read you the minutes.
Okay. I read them again. Please believe me, I have them right on my desk at home.
Just for the record, I'm going to read them. The front entry is to be restored, not replaced, using materials in like in kind to existing. If replacement of any portion of the front entry is necessary, the commission must be notified prior to beginning any replacement.
I got you.
The reason we went to such length and to put this document together for you is because of the repetitive nature of what's going on with this project. The windows, okay?
Yep.
In the dumpster, all right?
Yep.
We felt like we needed to put a document together and put it all into writing so that we could have something that we could both work off of and we could follow and we could agree to, okay?
I got you.
The problem is here, all it would have taken was a call into Andrea.
I fully understand that.
And this is the second time. This is the second time. And we talked about all of this,
I agree.
okay?
And again, I can apologize to the cows come home.
My concern is that it's going to happen again.
To what, to what? There's nothing left in it. Yeah, there's nothing left on the outside to do. What I would like to do, if you really want to know, is I'd like to put a small portico over the side door, and I'm going to get some drawings for you to bring the house back to where it should be.
All we're looking for you to do is to let us know. Bring
I
the
got it.
drawings in.
I will.
All we want is a working relationship with you, which we don't have. This has been very adversarial from day one.
And guess what? Can I tell you something? You guys started it, and here's why. You weren't at the first meeting. There was consensus that I was going to come back to the second meeting, right, and talk about the dormers when there was no intention of you ever letting me have dormers. That should have been stated, right? Because I was asked a question by John, and John, I'm not putting you on the spot. If we don't give you what you want, are you going to pull the project? And what did I say? Verse, no. I did it in good faith. And guess what happened? I brought you pictures of 7 houses just like that one in historic districts with dormers. And you know what your retort to me was? Oh, that happened before we were here. Let me ask you another question. You drive by that house? Who allowed the gas meter to go in front of that house in the historic district? It's costing me $2,500 to move it, because I don't want it there. It doesn't look right. I'm doing everything in my power to get in there and make it right, okay? And I apologize till the cows come home. I will tell you something, all right? I am very much driven in anything I do, my whole life, okay? And I'm not going to apologize for that. I am a very good communicator, I'm just letting you know. It's just, when we tore that down that night, the next day, I knew that could go up in 3 hours. For me to have one of you guys come out, who I respect, I mean, what would you have said to me when you saw that?
Andrea would come out, take a quick look at it.
Okay.
Yep, it looks all rotted, go ahead. All we wanted was a notification. That's all we were looking for.
And I
We
apologize.
didn't want somebody to come in 3 or 4 days after the fact, after we found out by some other means that what was going on here.
I get it.
And my concern is that with something else down the road, why should you even come talk to us?
So here's-
Because this has been the repetitive nature of this project.
Can I tell you
And
something?
I understand you want to get into the house, you want to get the project done, you want to do the best for the house. We get that. We get that. Just let us know. That's all I'm asking for.
And I promise, look at, my wife came down, did the paint, correct? You guys all worked it out. I told my wife tonight that I was coming down here with hat in hand, following on my sword. I did it. I own up to it. I've never shirked my responsibility in my life. So the deal I cut with my wife is, anything that has to be done, that has to come to you guys, she's gonna do it. And if you want to talk to her, I'll get her on the speakerphone. Because she wants to get in there worse than I want to get in there, okay? And I'm not putting a for sale sign on it. I'm not flipping it. I've heard every story in America. I wouldn't flip something like that. I'd flip something a lot smaller, okay? I have my house in Situate up for sale, all right? If you go by there and look at it and see the detailed work that the craftsman did on the corbel that was rotted, there's actually a leaf on there that you could never see. They're broke into 18 pieces, could not be duplicated, and he put it back together. So if I was going to ruin the house, would I go to those lengths to do that? That would be my question to you.
Let me ask the commission, just on the front entry, are you satisfied with the part of the restoration and the replacement that's been done? Do you want to see some drawings? Are the pictures satisfactory? Is what you've seen from the photographs enough to okay that? This is after the fact.
I think the photographs are adequate as far as documentation, and so if you've got other photographs, I think we would like them for our files, but other than that, I don't see the necessity of drawings.
I don't have any drawings.
I think you mentioned you
Because
had
it's exactly
photographs
what was
of some of
there.
the other rotted stuff when you took it apart. I think if you
I
could
can show you
submit
the- I
that.
can show you the whole undercarriage. And guess what? Here's an interesting thing, because I want you to understand something. Again, I didn't take those pictures for a defensive posture. I took those pictures so we could build the frame the same way that it was, with the wood. I talked to you about this. I said to you, when you were with Mike, I said, if you want me to go out and buy 100-year-old wood, because I could have done that, it would have took me a couple of days or a week, right? I had wood that would have did all that, but I had to use it on the back of the house that you've never looked at, because it was 2 stories worth of rot that I used that wood when I wanted to use that in the house. I do have pictures, Michael. I have pictures. I'm sorry, I didn't have them professionally done. I printed them on my printer today because I was in a hurry. So when you look at something like that, just take a look at that. You can't tell that that's rotted? I mean, immensely, look at it. I could stick my hand right inside that. That's number 1. Here's number 2. Talk about rot. There's rot. It looks like there was a fire inside of it. Here's number 3. Again, same. Here's the frame we rebuilt. 100-year-old, over 100 years. There's the shutters, they're over 50 years old. I bought 37 of them to fit the house. I bought 5 extras. Here's the side door that I took out of the house and saved, right? And on top of that, there's 2 doors in the garage, and Lois can speak to this, I showed her one. I bought a set of 100-year-old front doors from a house in Quincy, restoring those to make those the back doors with beveled glass. Nobody can see them from the street. I'm taking great pains with the doorway. As you can see, there's a glass knob there. I've even gone out and bought a little jingle bell that's over 100 years old, so the rope makes it sound. But there was a hornet's nest in there that we had to take apart and had to have removed. Great pains in the doorway because this is all rotted right here. You can see pieces of tin. I'm not going to touch it because if I do, this whole thing goes. Now, I can replicate all that wood, right? I can have it done, but I'm not going to, right? I'm going to leave it like that. The front doors, I was going to do really nicely, but since I can't do what I want, I'm going to have them lightly sanded and repainted black. Okay? Here's the core bell that was restored. You tell me that this guy didn't do a hell of a job. That's original, and 3 pieces of that are original, just in the front. He did all this. And it's mahogany, so it won't rot.
And this portion is original on both sides?
No.
Just on
The
one
other
side?
one is original. It was like 90%. We just had to touch it up. There's a little, there's some epoxy in certain places. It's like 95%. That was perfect. I couldn't believe it. Look at how nice it is. There's a picture of it. That's perfect. Now, the gutter's coming down, just so you know, because I put it up there because I couldn't get the 3x4. John, as a builder, 4 is hard to find right now. So the 3x4 had to be special ordered, right? So I went out and bought 5x4 to make it look good so they could put the copper cap on top, because it's the same width. The 3x4 hopefully will be here tomorrow afternoon, right? For installation, I'm hoping on Saturday of next week. Like I said, the eyesore to me, the gas meter, is going to be moved by dime, considerable expense. But somebody let that happen.
Yes.
No, don't you have to go in front of this commission to get a gas meter?
No, I did it.
No, that was done recently.
The meter maybe.
The meter was done recently. That meter was done recently. And by the way, there's a picture here. There's a picture here. There's the colors of the house, Marty. You okayed those. That's the outside, that's what it's gonna look like, and you really can't see the butternut, like we call it, or whatever the heck it is. It's not white, it's sort of yellowish. And I'll tell you one other thing, I just have one other thing to say. Against my better judgment, I've actually done what you've asked me several times. The holes in the soffits, I had them fixed rather than ripped down and put a new piece of wood there. That's totally against what I'm all about. You understand? Because I wouldn't live in that house. Animals come in through that way. They should have all been removed. But I knew that you didn't want that, and I patched it.
Okay. So I guess where I want to go from here is, there's a number of things that you need to, we talked about before in the application going forward. Shutters, it sounds like you've gotten some.
I have enough for the
Okay.
whole house, the
So-
whole sides.
Do we need an application on that, or can you can just?
No, but we had asked Mr. Copiano to bring in
Okay.
the shutters and the hardware.
Okay.
And I think...
I don't think he needs to bring all 56 of them in.
No.
No.
You want to bring a
Just
shutter
one.
in?
No?
Shut in here?
Do you want to see?
I'm going to shut it, I'm going to shut it to
Excuse me,
you.
Mr. Fopiano. The answer to your question is, that is what we said in the minutes. If you want to change that, that's fine.
I will bring a shutter in. They're being
It would be nice to.
they're being lightly sanded right now in Holbrook. I will get one tomorrow, I have to go out there.
Okay.
You know how long it took me to find those? 17 by 65 and a half?
I bet it took you a lot of time.
Listen, I was stuck in traffic. I looked over to my left, my right, I was up on 53. Do you ever see that place? It's sort of like an antique store and an Italian bakery. Anybody ever see that place?
No.
It is. I looked over, they were there. I
So-
jumped out of my car on a Sunday. had some guy there get the owner up there so I could buy them right then and there.
So paint, we've talked about, right?
Paint's done.
Paint, you've talked about. We talked about other details requiring approval, and this is just a punch list. Garage doors.
I have pictures, they're gonna be, it's gonna be custom
Lighting
made.
fixtures.
I haven't chose yet.
Trim color.
Trim color's been chosen, Marty approved.
Okay. Hardscape plans that you plan on doing.
I have those right here. I brought them because I just got them yesterday. Throwing myself on the mercy of the court. I would like you to take a look at these because I need to put a stone wall in. There was a wall in the driveway that we removed because it was all rotted. It was railroad ties.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Okay.
You talk about in there about the foundation under the bay window, right? About the exposure of the granite. That has to stay like that, but the rest of it underneath that needs that wall there to protect it because there's only one course of granite. Everything else is smaller stones underneath. We need to hard pack that dirt against there, right? And waterproof it so nothing seeps through. So I've had these drawn up. May I leave them? And I apologize for the small, I printed them on another printer. I have 7 copies. We're asking for a stone wall from on the other side of the bay window to come out to the corner of the house, just like it was, turn itself in. I've talked about this with you before. I want to change the walkway, which is not original to the house. I have 100-year-old bricks that I've already purchased. I can use them someplace else if you don't allow it, right? For the walkway, Thomas, we talked about, I want to take the junk that's on top. Lois pointed something out to me today. The frame of the stairs is actually really nice. It's granite stones, which I'd like to leave now, but put bluestone with the rough side pointing out, as you suggested. There's a kick plate above that that's actually somewhat damaged, right? And it's got so much paint on it, it's really hard for us to get it off. I'm going to leave it like that only because it's tucked behind the molding and I don't want to start fooling around with that. I don't want to cut it, I don't want to do anything to it. So we'll make that work, right? And I'd also like to put a brick walkway that cuts across the front lawn, because if you ever notice, that lawn is very high for some reason. It drops down probably a good 2 feet or 1.5 feet. I need some way to grade that down, but to keep it together. The brick coming across, right, with a step on the bottom into the driveway, which, by the way, I wanted to brick, but I didn't want to come in and go through it all, again. So I'm going to asphalt it, all right? With several courses of old cobblestones at the end. That's all I really have left on the outside. I know what I was thinking, maybe you could all chip in like $50 and buy me a real ugly light for the front to really,
Bet we can get one at the swap shop at the dump.
I bet you I could find one. So there's 2 different elevations there, there's side elevations, but basically it's looking at the front.
Mr. Fopiano?
Yes, ma'am.
Because this wasn't a part of the original application, we need to
I got it.
have an actual application.
I got it, I will do that tomorrow. I apologize, listen, I just got these yesterday, and I had to make some changes at the beginning of the week because it came all the way out to the street. And I have one more request to this. I've taken some granite out of the foundation, right, because we had coming out of the basement. I saved those 3 pieces of granite because I want to use them on the other side of the house where we put that new door, the old new door in. I want to use those because there's only a small platform, one on each side. There's going to be no railing on it. That's the way it was, I imagine. I've never seen it. It was never there. I want to take one of those pieces of granite and put it as an end cap on the wall when it comes out and turns back in, make it a corner cap, bury it into the ground, because it is part of the house. I wouldn't be asking at such short notice, but I really need to get that wall in.
got a question with regard to the front entry canopy. You've gone through I think it's a wood gutter for draining. Are you planning on putting a downspout?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What we're deciding, what we're going to put there, it wouldn't allow us to put copper there. So I really don't want to put metal there. I'm just trying to play around with that. Yeah, there was actually two of them, Chuck. There was one on each side. That's why that rotted out. We actually pitched it to the right. There's only going to be one downspout. We want to tie it into the one.
Makes sense to me.
Coming down in a V. I just don't know what we're going to use there yet.
Okay.
I'm going to try my best to make something really nice there.
What? You said no to copper?
Yes, they did. They told me somebody would steal it to gutters and downspouts. That should be it.
Put it.
No, I was told they couldn't do it. Marty? You told me I couldn't do it. Somebody would steal it.
Tell you couldn't.
Okay, I must be crazy. Listen, I've been through a lot of these meetings. I remember everything you say. That's why I carry this iPad. Okay? I take copious notes. I want to put copper gutters on the house. May I put copper gutters on the house if I choose with downspouts? May I do that?
There's a copper roof on the front entrance.
There's a copper roof in the front entrance, which was okayed, and on the bay window.
That's understood.
For the finish on that copper, are you going to leave it weather naturally, or are you going to put something on?
There's going to be nothing on there.
Right.
Those seams are sealed by hand with a little hammer. They're all turned in by a gentleman named John Dostey. He's from Holliston. He's a copper specialist. He came down with his little hammer, his little sheets, and built each one of those by hand right there on site. Okay. I have to leave the wood gutters up the top. Leave the wood gutters up the top. If I could put copper downspouts, right, I would very well, but depending on price, that makes it a little bit. You told me you have some type of composite?
Yes.
I don't mean composite in the sense of composite, I don't want to...
Fiberglass.
Maybe I come down and look at it.
Yep. You come over and look. It looks like wood.
Yeah, it's fiberglass, that'd be good.
So typically, we need Andrew, we need an application here.
Yes, that's
For
I can
this.
do that tomorrow. Should have my wife do that tomorrow.
Okay.
I think we have an open question about the gutters and the downspouts. Mr. Propiano asked, wood gutters with copper downspouts, is
I
that
have wood
correct?
gutters there, Andrea, they've been painted, I'm gonna leave them there, we refurbished those.
Okay,
But I need downspouts because they're all white aluminum, right? We trashed them because they had holes in them and everything, they were terrible. So I need to put something there, I haven't decided on it yet.
They make a galvanized metal rounded.
I saw it.
It's not actually round, it's kind of got like a
I've seen
bumps in
that.
it.
Yeah, it's got like ridges in it, yeah?
Yeah.
But it's round.
it's corrugated?
I've seen that,
It's not corrugated, well, it's historically correct.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's nice, it's actually nice.
Heavy-duty galvanized metal.
There was a piece of that on the back, there was a piece of that on the back, I saw that, I actually saved that. It's in the back of my truck, like everything else.
And then they make a bracket that holds it that's hidden. It's like a shutter dog that you drive into the wall, it hooks around, it's hinged, and you tie it with a piece of wire. And that would be
The interesting
totally
thing,
appropriate.
John, do they have that, I want to make sure that I have that sort of box, so when the two,
Like a box.
yeah, you know, when the two meet,
Into, and then you bring
yeah,
the
so when
gutter
they
up the
meet,
bottom.
I want to put that on the
downspout.
side of the house, so because now we have the electrical system brand new. We had that moved from way in the back of the house, because you couldn't put a ladder up against the house to clean the windows. Because the wire went all the way inside, we had that moved to the front of the house. It's the most logical place for it, so you can have all the mechanicals in one corner, right? So I want to make sure that that's protected. There's a downspout right there, I need to reroute it around it. We left enough room so it'll fit.
Can we give Mr. Propiano an answer on the,
Well, he
The
needs to-
gutters?
Yeah, the gutters.
The gutters are staying, so the choices are downspouts.
May I have poetic license with the downspouts? It's not going to look terrible. I'll either use the galvanized metal copper or what Tomas has done. There's only a few choices. I will tell you this much. It's not going to be prefab where somebody's going to come up and make me that square white stuff. I'm not going to do that. That's what was on there.
The only requirement is that they're round, is that correct?
That's very interesting, because the ones I took off were square. Okay? But they will be round. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with round.
Round in nature, in case they're the dimpled ones, which come in two different sizes and are appropriate. If you wanted to use the smaller one, it would be easier to fashion the gooseneck downspout combination from a smaller version of the same pipe into the larger version that would be the downspout going past it.
I probably have to do that. It's a good point.
To scale, it would look
The gutter's 3x4. The one on the front is 5x4. Did I not tell you that's one of the first thing I told you? And it's missing a piece of molding underneath because I knew I was taking it down.
And the new one's going on. And all you have to do is please tell Andrea what you have decided. That's it.
On the downspout, no, listen to me. I just told you, I'm not, right now, I'm reporting to a higher power. I'm not taking anything away from you, Mr. Commissioner. But my wife told me tonight that I'm not to come back in here again. Now, what would you do?
My wife.
Can I ask,
Why
I
roses?
just need this for the minutes. Mr. Fopiano has asked if he can take creative license with the downspouts. Is there any objection to the copper?
I'd say copper or galvy as long as it's round or the detailed round, appropriately sized.
I would say if he's going to use a box, like a box in which the...
No, they already said round.
On the side.
Well, you know what, I know what you're talking about. When you put
See,
it in a box and the cutter
I
comes
want it
out
on the other
bottom.
side.
But I don't think it needs to be a box. You
No,
can,
I
you
can
can
do it a
French
different way. You're right, John. I want it. Where'd those pictures go? No. I want it here. So what I'm trying to do is, right, I want this to meet this, because there's one here, you see how we left this room? I want that to meet that right here. So I want to turn this, because I don't want this coming straight down the front, because here's what happens. I have to redo a lot of the rock on the stairs, that's why it's it's not good, because the water just got all underneath it, right, because it was not sealed correctly. Please believe me when I tell you, these gutters, they were this big. There was so much junk packed inside of them, and they were all cracked. It's been a long haul.
Okay.
So
Poetic license.
the answer is,
Is that what you're saying?
Rounded in nature.
I said poetic license.
I mean, that drawing, though, that's...
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Yes, exactly, thank you. That's exactly what I'm trying to do right there. Exactly, thank you. May I keep this?
and I think, Mr. Fopiano, were you asking for the board to allow you to put in the fieldstone retaining wall at this point?
I would like that. It's going to be 18 inches, fieldstone. Would you say yea or nay?
New fieldstone or reclaimed fieldstone?
I haven't decided that. Is there, do you want, you have a preference? You want me to, I mean, I know a gentleman in Situate who has a landscaping company. I can see what he has. I can buy a few pallets of it. You know, I don't really think it's going to make a difference to you. It all looks the same.
Reclaimed has a patina to it.
Patina on it.
New fieldstone could be shiny granite.
I'm not, there will be, I was going to ask you if I could put granite slabs in there, because I can buy them at a pretty decent price. I know somebody who has them who can't put them back up. That's old. But my wife really likes the fieldstone. So John, whatever you suggest, you want reclaimed, we'll get reclaimed. Or I'll fix the patina on brand new. Look, I've taken...
I'm, on the side of a driveway, I think you're a perfectionist. And I
try to
think
be.
you're gonna end up making that decision, but new fieldstone can look pretty old.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you, listen,
After you get dirt.
you tell me that you want reclaimed, I'll go find some rocks. I mean,
Because you're replacing the ties.
we tore the ties out. If you remember, if anybody ever would buy that house, there were all these orange sun lilies, whatever they call those, daylilies.
Lilies, probably.
They lined that whole house, held all the moisture against it, was all rotted behind it.
Marty, what do you think about a fieldstone, new fieldstone on that wall? Do you have any preference?
I don't really have any preference for it. It's going to have something holding up that wall. I mean, it really needs it. And it would be pretty if it were more natural looking, so, do what you think you're going to be proud of.
Listen, I'm proud of the house right now. I think the house looks great.
Marty, what about a quincy cut granite there?
Well, quincy cut granite would be fine. Quincy cut granite would be fine. That's a kind of.
A little more uptown, a little less rustic than the...
Well, the thing about it is that it's a strange position there with the little window, and that change of height, it's always been a problem.
Yeah, so what I have to do, as you'll notice on the plan, I have to come from that corner. That's why the granite, if it slabs, may not do what I need it to do. I need to curve that wall, because...
Well, you can't curve it with granite very well.
Here's why,
Square it off.
John, here's why. Squaring off, I don't think will look right there, because I'm trying to catch as much of the driveway as I can. I want to curve that, but I also need to secure that, right? So I need to put shrubbery in there to hold it, right? Along that. I just can't...
What kind of shrubbery are you going to put in? Because some of these shrubs are going to...
Oh, I'm going to put in some I'm not going to put in, I'll tell you what I'm going to put in. My wife has not decided that yet.
Well, but there are certain shrubs, like if you want to put like a Bitzer, a juniper in there, a small shrub like that, that is a foundation eater. You don't want to put anything in there that's going to grow into your foundation because you've already got a soil problem. So you're going to need something with small roots, i.e. a small rhododendron with tiny roots, because otherwise you're going to have foundation problems, both in the wall and against the house holding moisture. So you want to plant with small roots.
Yes, ma'am. I wish I brought the other pictures I had another folder. And you can see, even in the front door, where there were trees growing right through that portico. There were bushes right up through it. That's why it was all loose and rotted and stuff, and the water was never pitched correctly. And the
So if you
roof,
make a little stone wall, you don't want the granite because you don't want, it won't curve, so you need
curve
a
it.
small
I need to
stone
curve that
wall.
around, because I need to come off the foundation like 10 to 12 inches, because I need to be able to plant in there too.
Well, that's pretty close.
Yeah, I need it that close.
So you're talking 10 to 12, you're talking about off the bay, where the bay comes up,
Yes,
correct?
off the bay. It'll be wide, it'll be real wide on the house.
Right.
But off the bay, I can't have it 2 feet off the bay.
No.
My wife wouldn't be able to put a car in the garage.
Right.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I think this is where we get into trouble with the portico. We're talking a lot about something that I guess hasn't been requested.
It has
yet
not, I'm
officially.
requesting it now, but I didn't do an application.
But that's what we have to do to make
Yes,
it
ma'am.
appropriate.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so I don't want to go down the same road that I think we went down last time, where we did a lot of information, and the information is very good for you to have. Now you know what you want to request.
Yes, ma'am. I'll do whatever you guys need.
I think that's,
I'll do an application tomorrow,
needs to be,
and then you guys can tell me, call me, or do you want me to wait till the October meeting to come back in?
It is it would be a meeting.
so, can we move this forward?
I think we do need to, let's move forward with the
We can.
stone wall, fieldstone stone wall, if nobody has any specific
I just
requests
have one other question.
regarding the type of fieldstone.
The height of the stone wall, looks like it's 18 inches wide. Is that correct?
It is.
And then the height in the front is how high?
I don't know, I'll have to get you that, I really don't. I got these from Brad.
Okay, if you could just send me the
I will.
dimensions, please, thank you.
Okay. So I'm sorry, Mr. Commissioner, are you saying I can start the wall?
I'm going to poll the commission right now. Voting members, Marty, Chuck, Mike, myself, Lois. So I'd like to make a motion for the 18-inch wide fieldstone wall that Mr. Fopiano would like to put up on 259 Main Street.
Mr. Chairman, a point of order. I think we cannot approve it because we need to have something in a written application.
Okay.
Does this have to go for advertising also?
Yes. And we have to notify abutters. We
My
can't.
neighbor wants.
And also, that'll give us a chance to take a look at it.
So, sorry about that, but as a matter of
No. Okay,
procedure.
I just brought them with me because I had them. I didn't get a chance. I was going to bring them down on Monday.
Wide.
I didn't have them.
Yeah, I would think a foot would be enough.
Okay, last piece of business on 259 Main Street. When we had the window issue, we were seriously considered a fine for this, for that incident. And when I heard about the portico and the overhang, I didn't know what to do in terms of enforcing the minutes and what we requested from you. And I think you're admitting that basically you should have gotten in contact with Andrea.
I should have called you, but
Right.
I want you to understand something.
I get it.
We talked about
I get it.
taking that
All
down.
we were looking for was a little heads up. Now, you can see how quickly we move through things if you just give us a little bit of a heads up.
I got it.
So, I want to throw it out there for the commission. Do you think a fine is in order here for the second instance of not following the minutes in the certificate of appropriateness that was granted for 259 Main Street? Fine is in order here. Is anybody else in support of that?
I absolutely disagree with that.
I disagree.
I don't think it's necessary at all. I think the money that was spent duplicating the second bracket to match the first would be more money than,
Any fine.
I don't even know how much, I didn't want to know how much that cost to have that duplicated.
Can I tell you something? I'm not going to tell you how much it costs because you think I'm crazy. That took 6 weeks to build.
John, I'm more concerned about just the process here. I'm not, the cost is one thing, and I understand that, but I'm more concerned about following the protocol here that we set and what was in the minutes and what requested of the applicant. And I'm very concerned about this happening again, not only with this applicant, but other applicants too. I want to be very careful with this. And this is the second time with this application. And the first one, with the windows ending up in the dumpster, and we weren't notified of that, cease and desist on this, and we thought was enough. And here we go again on the same path. This is a repeated offense.
You know that cease and desist?
So I want...
3.5 months.
Hold on a second. And I understand that, and that's
3.5 months.
and that's why...
Lots of money.
We understand that.
Lots of money.
I understand that. And I'm asking the other commissioners for their thoughts on this. That's how I feel personally. You may have other opinions on it, but it's open for discussion.
I think some fine. Just as a procedural thing. Doesn't have to be a big fine, but I think we should stick to our guns.
So let me ask a question.
I feel there has to be a fine.
Let me ask you a question. You guys can do whatever you want, right? My last statement. My mistake, again, was being overzealous to fix something that was rotted immediately. I'm guilty of that, with no phone call. But we talked about that portico, taking those things down, and when I got it, but when I walked in, it was like, you ripped it down. That was taken down meticulously.
Do you agree with what was in the minutes here?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, it's
I
all right
didn't
there.
make the call.
It's all right there.
It is right there. But what's not right there is, we talked about taking the Corbels down. We
That is-
talked
that is
about,
correct, and
all
I
about
understood
that. But that's Lois, nobody said that to me but Lois. I talked to her about that today. She had that in her notes.
Yeah,
I
the
just-
brackets were to come down.
I just think
When the brackets come down, guess what happens?
roof falls down.
Oh, we hoisted it up. You all drove by there, you saw those 2x4s holding that up for weeks on end.
Yes.
Weeks on end. So it didn't come down and somebody get hurt.
I think during that period of time where we were talking, that I left with the sense that we had maybe misled you, maybe inadvertently. I thought we had given you more permission to take things into your own hands and do it. That's why,
I got you.
Lois, he wasn't misled. He said that he should have called.
I did.
He was not misled.
Mr. Commissioner, how much are you gonna fine me?
It's open for discussion. I'm just throwing it out to the
Where
commission,
does the money go?
the town of Hingham.
To do what with?
Goes into the general, it goes into the general fund.
We don't have any say over that.
Yeah, but I think it should go to somebody who's gonna be restoring a house.
We'd like for it to be too, but it doesn't work that way,
All right.
unfortunately.
Maybe I could get my money back. You wanna call me with the fine, Andrea? You guys can have a
No.
discussion?
No, you need to be here, Mr.
That's right.
Fabiano.
Okay. Mike, any thoughts?
I think, while I agree that the cease and desist probably cost the applicant some money,
Tons of money.
I think the fact that it happened the first time and it happened again creates a problem. And as you say, not only for this applicant, but what's to stop other people in similar conditions of just doing it and saying, oh, sorry, I forgot to call you. And it just keeps happening, and it just keeps happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happened again in this particular instance or with other applicants in similar situations. So, I do agree that a fine is, should be assessed in this situation.
Okay. I was thinking of a number, I think the portico came down over the weekend,
No, it
correct?
didn't.
When did it come down?
Come down on like a Tuesday night. When did you go up to look at it?
Wednesday.
Yeah, come down on a Tuesday night.
I don't think it was done with malice. I think a fine.
It wasn't done with
I think a
malice.
fine in this instance would absolutely be acceptable if it had been done with malice.
But I don't think Mr. Fopiano would have called us at all. I don't think we would have gotten any call.
I think if that was the case and it wasn't rotted, and I don't know why I'm getting into this, but I don't think that the bracket would have been remade the way it was.
No, it would have been, I would have remade the brackets, but if it wasn't rotted, it wouldn't have came down. We would have just put the brackets
I'm
on.
not concerned about the brackets and the restoration. I'm concerned about what we laid out in the minutes, and we wanted you to follow because of the window issue.
I heard you. What's the fine? Tell me what the fine is.
I'm thinking around $1,000.
I'm not paying $1,000, I'm telling you right now.
Okay.
There's no way I'm paying $1,000.
I can't vote for a fine.
There's no way I'm paying $1,000. Who do I need to talk to in this town? There's no way I'm paying $1,000. Why would you fine me $1,000 with all the work I've done on that house, when it was an eyesore? I was misled from the first
Talking
time I
about the
walked in
protocol.
there. I got you with protocol.
Nobody misled you.
Yes, you did. I was misled. You weren't here. I was misled. Go through the minutes. I've gone through them. I was misled. If you do this, we'll talk about the dormers.
If anybody feels a number other than $1,000 would be more appropriate, let's move forward with that number. I'm open to discussion.
In terms of precedent and whether prior instances where fines have been levied comes into play in here, there have been circumstances where fines have been issued. Do you recall what the basis of that was? And was it X dollars per day till it was
Yes, our
settled? or what?
bylaw, the district's commission bylaw allows
500 a day.
anywhere from $10 to $500 a day, and each day is a separate offense.
And guess what? That wasn't down 24 hours.
And I came up with a number based on, this was the second offense. And I wanted to make sure that the message was sent.
The message is sent, but I'm telling you right now, who do I need to talk to? $1,000, your bylaw says 500 a day. 500 is too much, because it wasn't down 24 hours. Look, I'm trying to be respectful, and I'm trying to, work the process. Again, I missed the phone call. I got it. Please believe me, I got it, right? As soon as Andrea was there, I came right in, I came right down with that wood to show her. My bad.
Any other thoughts? We can take a vote on the number, or we can take a vote on
Go down
another
the row
number.
here and find out what's going on.
What's that?
Go down the row here and find out.
You know, if it's up to 500 a day, and it was a day, then I don't see any more than 500, in my mind, as something appropriate for this particular instance. I understand the second offense, and we didn't talk about a fine the first time around, but, maybe we should have. But I think if $500 for a day is where the bylaws stand, I think, in my mind, that would be
10 to 500 a day.
appropriate.
I think Mr. Fabiani clearly has shown remorse for what he did, but when you look at the way it was restored, I think it's a beautiful restoration, and as John said, there's probably a lot of money that went into restoring that. So I think you're very impulsive. And in this case, I wish you weren't that impulsive, but I also think that you're shown that you're sorry for it, and you've apologized for it. I could not support a fine.
I agree with Tomas. If I'm doing a project on a historic home and the corner board is rotted, and then I find out the water table is rotted, and then the one piece of the step is rotted, I'm not gonna come in every minute and talk to Andrea about every board. This is greater than that, I understand, but it's put back exactly, as similar to it was.
What's exact? Dimensions, wood?
I just don't see the harm. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind whether the wood on the counter is the wood that came from this or not, but that it was rotted. I can't tell you how many of these I've seen that just rot out because the tin rots in one corner, the water gets in, and it's got nowhere to drip out. It's a sealed unit. It just sits in there for years and festers. I've been living in this town most of my whole life, and this house was covered in vines and...
And mold, there's mold in there, and please believe me, that wood came out of there.
I mean-
Carrying wood around me.
It's just a matter of, if a fine is due, then it should be appropriate to the size of the offense. I mean, it'd be different if it was back when it was all the windows and shutters and everything else, and I could see $500. I just, $50, $25, or something as a token gesture to say that guidelines or the regulations weren't followed, but it's the attempt to return it to what it was has been made.
I understand that, John. It's just that the second offense, and I just want to make sure that, in the future, that someone's considering, giving Andrea a call or not, that they come down and fill out an application, or just let her know that what's going on is, they're doing a restoration or doing a replacement. A nominal fine here in this case, I don't agree with it. So, but I do think a fine's in order here, and I think Mike, the $500 is reasonable for me also.
I could accept $500 for a fine.
Who do I talk to? I think $500 is way out of line.
Okay. I think we should take a vote on it, and if you'd like to discuss it with
with somebody outside the commission, you're welcome to do it.
You can call the selectmen's office. You
I
can
will do
call-
that. I will do
You can
that.
call the chairman, Paul Healy.
I will do that. I will do that definitely. Right?
You
I'll
know,
pay
even
it.
the Red Sox get 3 strikes around.
No, no, no.
Can we
please.
take a vote, please?
Okay.
I think it's getting late.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to levy a fine of $500 for voting people are Marty, Chuck, Mike, myself, and you, Lois. Fine of $500 on 259 Main Street for noncompliance with certificate of appropriateness, specifically taking down and replacing the front portico on the house. We specifically stated in the minutes that if the front entry is to be restored and not replaced, using materials in like kind to existing, if replacement of any portion of the front entry is necessary, the commission must be notified prior to beginning any replacement. So the fine is a second offense after the windows were taken from the house and thrown out.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
When's the fine have to be paid? How long do I have to pay it?
So, in order to
What's
get
the
a
protocol?
certificate of occupancy,
You have to pay the fine?
you have to pay the fine. Or you can, contact the selectman.
Oh, no, I will. I may end up paying the fine, but I will contact somebody. I think it's right.
So going forward, I know this has been a very difficult process for you. It's been difficult for us also. I hope we can turn the corner from here. I really do. I think we got quite a few things done for you as far as reviewing your landscape plan.
I appreciate it.
And your shutters. And we want to do the right thing for you. We appreciate what you're doing to the house. And we just want to make sure that the process is followed correctly going forward, because we want you in there. We want you in there, we want the job completed, and we want you to be happy in the house. And I mean that,
That when my children move in, but that's okay.
and I think I'm speaking that for everyone, so.
So you know
Truly.
something, I've learned something through this process, but I hope you guys all have a takeaway too. You know what I'm saying? Everything's not a one-off, right? There needs to be more consistency in discussions and outcomes. And I told you, I owe you a letter, or I owe all of you a letter, somebody a letter, about things that I see, because I've been here surely enough. We probably could improve the process for the constituents of the town.
Please feel free to write it, and please feel free to
No, I
contact
will. I
whoever
will.
you'd like.
I will, because I appreciate the time that you guys take, and I know it's personal time. I won't keep you any longer. It's been a great summer. You want the wood?
No.
No, that's what Clancy said to me, and he's like, get it out of here. Yeah, here's the piece that I really love, because you can see this one in the pictures, so that you know that it came out of there. Okay? Again, my reputation, or was just questioned again, like this didn't come out of the house and carry it around. I found it, right? I found this, and I decided to bring it in. That's a really nice thing. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Good night.
Sharon, do you want to,
Okay, so it's 9:30. I'd like to adjourn the Historic Districts Commission meeting for September 17, 2015.
okay.
Do I have a second? Second. All right. Have a good night. I appreciate everybody's hard work tonight.